Chapter 989. Ask her yourself. Shangwan Liuli looked down at her collar, which was being clenched tightly. The darkness in her eyes grew thicker. She even made a blood oath with me. This kind of bet. If she is not willing, how can I force her? Lu Xiaoyu's face suddenly turned pale. Blood oath. Xiaoyu, let her go. Yiqing Luo glanced at the profound yin qi in Shangwan Liuli's eyes and stretched out her hand to pull Lu Xiaoyu away. Lu Xiaoyu saw that Yiqing Luo did not refute. Obviously, this matter was true. She clenched her fists and was pulled back a few steps by Yiqing Luo, biting her lower lip tightly. Blood oath cannot be cancelled, which meant that if Yiqing Luo was unable to win, her meridians would be broken and her profound jade heart destroyed. Facing Shangwan Liuli's complacent expression, Yiqing Luo totally ignored it. She directly pulled Lu Xiaoyu back to her seat. Little foodie, don't you love the cafeteria's roast duck? Eat more. After saying that, she picked up the cold tea on the table and took a sip. Her brows were calm and composed, as if she had not heard Shangwan Liuli's words. Yiqing Luo, you can't be arrogant for long. I'm waiting for you to break your meridians and cripple your profound energy. Shangwan Liuli's face turned green as she said fiercely. Yiqing Luo put down the teacup and pretended to be surprised as she turned her head to ask Lu Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu, do you smell something? Why is it so smelly? Lu Xiaoyu was also stunned for a moment before she regained her senses and looked at Shangwan Liuli with a smile. Probably someone's mouth is too smelly. Yiqing Luo, Lu Xiaoyu. Just you wait. Shangwan Liuli was fuming with anger. If it wasn't for the fact that fighting was prohibited in the academy, she would have hit them directly. Just at this moment, Shangwan Fangi walked over from afar and pulled Shangwan Liuli's arm. Third brother. Shangwan Liuli was filled with anger as she shouted angrily at Shangwan Fangi. These two are bullying me. Shangwan Fangi took a look at Yiqing Luo, pulled Shangwan Liuli's arm and leaned to his side and said in a deep voice, Student Yi, I have something to ask you. No comment, he answered without hesitation, not giving any face to Guan Fangi. Yiqing Luo you. Shangwan Liuli was instantly infuriated as the black qi in her eyes started to thicken. Shangwan Fangi grabbed her in time and pressed down on her shoulders. Fifth sister, don't mess around for now. I have questions to ask her. Seeing the serious expression on Shangwan Fangi's face, Shangwan Liuli pouted and shook off his hand. She kicked the chair beside her and stood there sulking. Shangwan Fangi had no time to care about his sister's feelings. His vision was fixated on Yiqing Luo without blinking as he lowered his voice. The god relic which you obtained in King Ling's tomb. Has it formed a blood pact with you? Yiqing Luo raised her eyelids and swept a glance at Shangwan Fangi as her lips curled up in ridicule. Why? Without the blood pact, you're preparing to snatch it. These words also made it clear that the divine artifact was with her. He didn't hide it anywhere else or hand it over to the Overlord for safekeeping. It was on her body. Since she dared to directly expose it, Yiqing Luo had no intention of being afraid. After the battle in King Ling's tomb, Shangwan Fangi definitely wouldn't dare to easily make a move on her. Unless he didn't want to live anymore. No, you've misunderstood. Shangwan Fangi's brows creased. He despised the act of fawning on Yiqing Luo. Chapter 990. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled as her eyes were filled with ridicule. What if we form a blood pact? Then, on behalf of the Shangwan family, I sincerely invite you to become the elder of the Shangwan family. Yiqing Luo almost spat out a mouthful of tea. Elder? Did she look old? The elder of the Shangwan family can enjoy all the rights and interests of the Shangwan family, and can mobilize all the troops of the Shangwan family, and anyone in the Shangwan family other than the patriarch. Shangwan Fangi deliberately slowed down his tone when he said the last sentence, probing Yiqing Luo's expression. Shangwan Liuli, who was standing behind him, had a change of expression as she cried out in disbelief. Third brother. What are you talking about? Anyone other than father? Didn't that include her? Let Yiqing Luo order her around? Was Shangwan Fangi crazy? This is father's order. Shut up. Shangguan Fangyi shook off Shangguan Liuli's hand as he lowered his voice and berated her sternly. Shangguan Liuli bit her lips tightly as her eyes were filled with tears, filled with grievance. Shangguan Fangyi had no time to care about her emotions. He turned to Yi Qing Luo with a fawning smile on his face. What does student Yi think? Yi Qing Luo faintly curled her lips as her charming eyes overflowed with ridicule. The Shangguan family has put in a lot of effort for the power of the divine relic. Shangguan Fangyi smiled even more flatteringly. Yes, this represents the sincerity of the Shangguan family in cooperating with student Yi. Then, my answer is, Yi Qing Luo's eyes curved as a trace of ridicule flashed past. Just at this moment, Shangguan Fangyi groaned inexplicably as he almost knelt on the ground. He held his chest as his face turned pale as a sheet as he tottered. Shangguan Liuli was still sulking when she heard Shangguan Fangyi's voice and immediately regained her senses. She saw Shangguan Fangyi clutching his chest in pain, while Yi Qing Luo and Lu Xiaoyu had already stood up and walked towards another direction. Yi Qing Luo, you're despicable. That undetectable murderous intent earlier, although it was just a flash, but Shangguan Liuli clearly felt that it was Yi Qing Luo who secretly hurt him. Yi Qing Luo. Shangguan Liuli furiously pointed at Yi Qing Luo. You dare to make a move on my third brother in public. Yi Qing Luo turned her head over and laughed lightly. Which eye of yours saw me making a move? Ask the students around you, did I do anything? The surrounding students shuddered and moved back a little. On one side was Yi Qing Luo, who was currently in the limelight and was being spread around like a god. On the other side were the young masters and young mistresses of the Shangguan family. It would be wrong for them to speak up for either side. Speak. Was she the one who did it? Shangguan Liuli's arrogant and spoiled temperament immediately surged in her heart. Apart from her, who else can hurt my third brother? After being forced into a corner, the students stammered in fear. I really didn't see student Yi make a move. Why did student Shangguan do this? It might not necessarily be related to student Yi. They were only telling the truth. With so many pairs of eyes watching, Yi Qing Luo indeed had no signs of making a move. If he could injure Shangguan Fangyi without moving, unless he used his profound qi. But the academy was equipped with profound qi scanning devices. If Yi Qing Luo were to use her profound qi, she would definitely be discovered by the academy. Could it be Shangguan Fangyi intentionally wanted to frame Yi Qing Luo? This thought flashed past the students' minds. One by one, they nodded in agreement. There was a huge possibility of this. Chapter 991. Shangguan Fangyi, who was being looked at suspiciously by many students, couldn't say anything even if he wanted to. Inexplicably, his chest seemed to have been struck by something. The impact almost made her vomit out her internal organs. However, he had no idea what it was that had struck his chest. Indeed, they didn't see Yi Qing Luo make a move. But it was absolutely Yi Qing Luo. Other than Yi Qing Luo, no one else could hurt him without leaving a trace. This was Yi Qing Luo's answer? Unwilling to hand over the power of the divine artifact, Shangguan Fangyi frowned, and a trace of ruthlessness appeared in his eyes. Yi Qing Luo scoffed disapprovingly and turned around to leave with Lu Xiaoyu. Shangguan Liuli flew into a rage out of humiliation as she took quick steps forward to block Yi Qing Luo's path. Yi Qing Luo, you were the one who attacked my third brother. Don't even think about denying it. Do you think you can do whatever you want just because you have a divine artifact? This was an academy. Attacking a fellow student is a violation of the academy rules. Yi Qing Luo looked at her with a smile, which didn't look like a smile. You said Qing Luo had violated the academy's regulations. Show us the evidence. If you don't have any evidence, what are you talking about? Lu Xiaoyu snorted coldly, not giving Shangguan Liuli any face. Do you have any evidence? Let's go to the faculty council together. Ask the faculty council to investigate if the injuries on my third brother were caused by you. If they were to announce that Yi Qing Luo had violated the academy's regulations, directly asking the students to expel her, Devil class would not be able to participate in the inter-class competition. Then, he would not be able to win. With their blood oath, she would definitely win. Thinking of this, Shangwan Lioli became more aggressive as she grabbed Yi Qing Luo's arm and pulled her towards the entrance of the cafeteria. Her mouth kept shouting that she wanted to drag Yi Qing Luo to the faculty council. Yi Qing Luo's eyes turned slightly cold as her brows creased slightly and was about to shake Shangwan Lioli off. But she heard an extremely dignified voice coming from the cafeteria entrance. "Student Yi Qing Luo, is student Yi Qing Luo around?" The one who entered was the headmaster dressed in a white robe. The students immediately bowed respectfully. Elder Yun Jin. This was the third elder who was ranked behind Yun Xiang, Yun Jin. Yi Qing Luo and the others were extremely eye-catching. The minute Yun Jin entered, she saw Yi Qing Luo. "Student Yi Qing Luo, the director invites you over." Yun Jin didn't bother about what had happened in the cafeteria, as he directly followed the director's instructions to look for Yi Qing Luo and pass on the news. Everyone was startled when they heard this. Yun Jin's gaze calmly brushed past Shangwan Lioli's hand. "Director invites student Yi Qing Luo to the director's office. Don't let him wait for too long." Yi Qing Luo's hand, which was about to shake off, stopped as her brows creased even tighter. The dean was looking for her? Could it be because of the divine artifact? In the tomb of the Ling King, he met a few people from the dark forces. Their target was the divine artifact. Moreover, the dark forces had stolen her profound heart jade, and now it had returned to its rightful owner. The dean was probably under the orders of the King of Darkness to come and find out more about the divine weapon, as well as other motives. "Hey, Shangwan Lioli, did you hear that? The director wants to invite Qing Luo to the director's office. Why aren't you letting go? Do you want to follow her to the director's office to look for the director to sort things out?" Lu Xiaoyu saw that Shangwan Lioli still refused to let go of Yi Qing Luo's hand. She stretched out her hand and grabbed hold of their hands, using all her might to pry them apart. Shangwan Lioli was violently pulled apart as she staggered backwards for a few steps, coincidentally knocking into Shangwan Fangyi. Shangwan Fangyi was knocked into again as his chest felt stuffy, and at the next instant, a trickle of blood started to flow out from the corner of his mouth. However, at this moment, no one bothered about whether Shangwan Fangyi was injured or not. Chapter 992. Let's go. Yi Qing Luo patted the wrist, which was held by Shangwan Lioli, as she squinted her eyes and said indifferently. Yun Jin led the way as Yi Qing Luo followed closely behind. This time round, Shangwan Lioli didn't dare to stop her. She could only allow Yi Qing Luo to leave. Shangwan Fang Yi and Shangwan Lioli's faces were steely green as they gritted their teeth and swallowed their anger. Director's office. Yi Qing Luo had just walked in when Yun Jin left. There was only the director alone in the director's office. Seeing Yi Qing Luo enter, the director raised his hand and indicated for her to sit opposite. In front of him, there was already a cup of fragrant tea. Yi Qing Luo swept a glance at the tea as a gloomy glint flashed past her eyes. Following that, she raised her eyes and gazed at the director's direction as her lips curled. "Director is looking for me." "What's the matter?" The director's sharp gaze stared at Yi Qing Luo, as though he wanted to see a sliver of fear or fear from her eyes. But there was no emotion at all. That pair of narrow eyes were filled with indifference. The dean's eyes flickered slightly, and he did not beat around the bush. "I heard that you led the mercenary group you established to the tomb of the Ling King during your holiday, and you got entangled with the dark forces." Yi Qing Luo raised her brows in astonishment. The director actually took the initiative to mention the dark forces. Could it be that he was prepared to lay his cards on the table? Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as her fingers caressed the azure dew ring on her fingertip, ready to summon Chi-Chi anytime. Immediately following that, the director continued, "I've also heard about the matter of King Ling's tomb. You're just a student, and yet you've caused such a huge sensation." He paused as he restrained the sharpness in his eyes and smiled. "Your innate talent and ability is the most outstanding student I've ever met since I became the director. Even the class of gods can't match up to you. Yi-Ching Luo didn't reply. She didn't understand the intention of the director's praise. Student Yi, are you interested in joining the class of gods? The next sentence made Yi-Ching Luo stunned. Last time, the instructors jointly requested the director to transfer her to the class of gods. The director still had an unwilling look. Now he actually brought it up. Could it be? Was he trying to use the class of gods to make a deal with her? Then, the headmaster said in a sincere and heartfelt tone, Student Yi, although you are very strong, you are still a student after all. You should still focus on your studies. In the next few days, I'll arrange for you to enter the class of gods. That way, when you participate in the inter-class competition, you'll definitely win. When Yi-Ching Luo heard this, she couldn't help but burst out laughing. He was a dignified headmaster, but he was actually concerned about whether she could win the inter-class competition. In other words, he knew about the bet between her and Shangwan Lioli. Her smile made the director mistakenly thought that Yi-Ching Luo was moved by his suggestion. The dean's smile grew warmer. That's settled then. Student Yi, I'll have a teacher from the class of gods come to pick you up in a moment. Not waiting for Yi-Ching Luo to reply, he continued, after entering the class of gods, in order to catch up with the progress of the class, you still have to take part in the ability assessment and the inter-class competition. The time after that, you will be extremely busy. You're just a student. There are a lot of things that can't be placed on you alone. Student Yi, if you hand over the people from the dark faction to the academy will definitely protect your safety. This was the director's motive? Did he want those people from the dark faction who she had captured to hand over to the director to handle? Chapter 993. Indeed, what ability assessment, bringing forward the inter-class competition, joining the class of gods. All these were just for a dignified reason, to save those dark forces people from her hands. Director was someone from the dark forces. She handed those people who were imprisoned in the old mansion over to director. Wasn't that releasing the tiger back into the mountain? Looked like. Leopard Saint Skill, indeed, knew quite a number of secrets from the dark forces. Otherwise, why would director spend so much effort to think of ways to get those people from the dark forces in her hands? Yi-Ching Luo's eyes flashed past a cold glint, but her lips curled into a smile. No need to trouble director. Those people from the dark forces had their profound jade heart and 4 limbs crippled by my mercenary group's mercenaries, and after 2 days of torture, they are all dead. While she was speaking, her expression didn't change at all. This kind of matter, to her, was very common. So calm that she didn't seem like a 15-year-old young lady. Dead. Director creased his brows suspiciously, as though he didn't believe it. Yi-Ching Luo met director's eyes in puzzlement. Don't tell me director doesn't wish for those evildoers to die. Of course I hope so. Director was suddenly questioned and his eyes flickered. But how could they die so easily? Then, did the people from the dark forces reveal any news? Mentioning this point, Yi-Ching Luo sighed softly and shook her head. They were stubborn, so the mercenaries increased the punishment. Who knew? They couldn't take the torture. Director didn't say another word. His dark and gloomy eyes gazed deeply at Yi-Ching Luo, as though he was trying to find a trace of lying from her expression. However, Yi-Ching Luo remained emotionless. Meeting director's gaze for some time, Yi-Ching Luo intentionally changed the topic. But in King Ling's tomb, I heard someone called Guardian Eagle saying something about the dark forces. As expected, when the 3 words Guardian Eagle was mentioned, director's expression congealed. What did he say? Nothing much, just that he was fighting with someone called Elder Xiong. They quarreled and said, the Lord of the Dark Forces wanted the divine relic. Everyone knew clearly what the motive of the dark forces was. Yi-Ching Luo also borrowed the topic of the divine relic to print out the word his lordship. Killing each other? The dean murmured in a low voice, although he did not show it on his face. But that smear of panic and astonishment in his eyes didn't escape Yi-Ching Luo's eyes. She squinted her eyes and said, that's right. Protector Ing and Elder Xiong killed themselves so that I could have the chance to obtain the divine weapon. I should be grateful to them. Be dead? The dean almost couldn't sit still. He suddenly stood up and placed his hands on the table in front of him. He tried his best to control his emotions and pretended that nothing had happened. But Yiqing Luo, who was clear of everything, was very clear of the director's current thoughts. All along, the one who had been in contact with the dean was Guardian Ing. Protector Ing must have made use of the principal's desire to work for the King of Darkness. Time and time again, he ordered the principal to take away his student's soul. Guardian Ing had yet to bring the dean to meet the King of Darkness. He died just like that. The headmaster's many years of hard work would also be destroyed with Guardian Ying's death. And now the person who was in contact with the dean had changed to Saint Law, which meant that the hard work that the dean had put in these few years had to be overturned and started all over again. Chapter 994. A moment later, the principal clenched his fists tightly. His expression was as stern as ever. The dark forces are too rampant. As the dean of the academy, I will definitely protect my students. Student Yi, don't worry, you'll be safe in the academy. It was precisely because they were in the academy that she felt unsafe. Yiqing Luo's heart was filled with sincerity, but her face was all smiles. Thank you, Director, for your concern. If there's nothing else, I'll return to Devil class first. I still have to prepare for the ability assessment. The headmaster concealed the deep meaning in his eyes and slightly raised his white eyebrows. He understood the meaning behind her words. You don't want to go to the class of gods. No, Yiqing Luo replied without hesitation. President Ling stared at her in astonishment. Countless students racked their brains to get into the class of gods, hoping to be called a genius among geniuses. Yiqing Luo had 2 such opportunities, but he gave up again and again. The dean felt that since he had been the dean for so many years, his ability to judge people was definitely not bad. But he couldn't see through a 15-year-old girl. It was no wonder that his lord valued her so much. Thinking till here, the dean's gaze deepened as he stared at her. Since student Yi has already made up her mind, I won't stop you. If student Yi likes the devil class, then stay in the devil class. After a pause, he changed the topic. I still have a question for student Yi. Director, please speak. Yiqing Luo openly met his gaze. I heard that in the battle against the dark forces in the tomb of the Ling King, not only did student Yi use the power of the divine weapon, but she also used the ancient divine dragon and the holy beast, the white tiger. Is that true? The dean narrowed his eyes and enunciated each word clearly. His gaze seemed as though he wanted to take in every minute expression on Yiqing Luo's face. Yiqing Luo calmly raised her brows as her long and narrow eyes rose slightly. Yes, if it wasn't for Blue Dragon and White Tiger's help, I wouldn't be able to come back alive. How did you manage to get the help of the Holy Beast and the Divine Dragon? The headmaster could not help but frown slightly when he saw her speaking so casually. The former Yiqing Luo was famous for being a waste. Of course, it was very possible that she had purposely hidden her strength. However, he had never seen any traces of sacred beasts or divine dragons. Then she entered the Heavenly Academy. She had always been in the academy, acting under his watch. When did she contract with a holy beast and a divine dragon? Yiqing Luo smiled. During the holidays, I casually picked them up, and after that, they have been following me. Pick it up? How could a divine dragon be so easily picked up? How could a sacred beast be so easy to pick up? The dean's eyebrows twitched. He knew that this female student wasn't someone who could be easily fooled by other students. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens to pry information out of her mouth. Protector Ying's death made him lose all other thoughts at this moment. Then, he waved his sleeves and said, "You can go now. Train well, and try to pass the strength test." Yiqing Luo stood up and left with a faint smile. Just as he reached the door, he heard the dean's voice again. Right, student Yi. In order to ensure the fairness of the test and class competition, during the test and competition, you're not allowed to use the power of battle pets like the Divine Dragon and White Tiger, nor are you allowed to activate the power of divine artifacts. I know. Right from the start, Yiqing Luo had no intention to use this heaven-defying power on Heavenly Academy students. Divine Weapon, Sacred Beast. It was a life-saving trump card in a critical moment. Moreover, There was a surge of restless, profound yin-chi existing in her body, which she was unable to capture. She didn't dare to use too much power. Walking out of the headmaster's office, Yi-Ching Luo closed her eyes. Now, she wanted to cast aside all distracting thoughts. Chapter 995. The ability assessment was arranged to be half a month before the interclass competition, which was the beginning of the month, which was the 3 days of holidays. Yi-Ching Luo could roughly guess. The 3 days of holidays was actually the time for the King of Darkness to offer his soul, in order to cover up for the dark forces. Every single holiday, Heavenly Academy would clear all the internal staff. Even the elders were not allowed to stay in the academy. Whereas in other academies, even if it was a holiday, one could choose to stay in the academy. It was enough to tell that there was something fishy going on during Heavenly Academy's holidays. This time round, they actually sacrificed the holiday of offering their soul to hold the ability assessment. What was the dark forces trying to do? These guesses were currently unable to get an answer. Only after the ability assessment, or after the interclass competition, would they find out. In the following time, Yi-Ching Luo threw herself into training the students. In the past training, these students were already complaining incessantly. This time round's training was even more rigorous than before. It could be said to be a hellish training, until everyone's daily time, other than lying on the ground, was to train with all their might. When they were so tired that they were half dead, Baiming Lulu had refined out some medicinal pills. Consuming one pill, the depleted energy in their body would be replenished once again. But the energy in their body could be replenished. But after a long period of battle and training, the exhaustion in their bodies was still clearly felt. But no matter how tough or tiring it was, they would absolutely not utter a single word. After 7 days of training, Yin Xiao Yi, who had consumed the antidote which Ghost Doctor had refined, returned to the team. But Yi-Ching Luo's training for her didn't make her participate in the training forcefully. Yin Xiao Yi, who had just detoxified, was much weaker than usual. Most importantly, Yin Xiao Yi's poison was specially made by the dark forces, Dark 3 Evil Flower. The minute Yi-Ching Luo thought of the unstable, profound yin-chi in her body, she was worried that Yin Xiao Yi would be the same. This time round's ability assessment, Yi-Ching Luo also rejected Yin Xiao Yi's participation. My body is really fine now. I also want to contribute to the devil class. Yin Xiao Yi was unable to accept this suggestion. Ching Luo, I know you're worried about me, but I know my own body best. I also believe in Master Ghost Doctor's medical skills. Yi-Ching Luo sighed. She knew that the poison in Yin Xiao Yi's body had indeed been cleansed cleanly. However, she was still worried about the dark forces. Yi-Ching Luo was totally unable to guess the dark forces' methods. He was obsessed with Long Yunjian, one of her. Yi-Ching Luo didn't want Yin Xiao Yi to become the third sex addict, even if it was just a guess. However, it was better to be safe than sorry. By the time Yin Xiao Yi really got infected by the profound yin chi from the darkness 3 demon flowers backlash, everything would be too late. Xiao Yi, the strength test is only a small test. It's insignificant. What's important is the interclass competition. That's the most important match for us. During the testing period, you should recuperate your body. When the interclass competition starts, you will be the main force of the devil class. Yi-Ching Luo patted Yin Xiao Yi's shoulder lightly. I'll let Jin Zi accompany you. Yin Xiao Yi's eyelashes trembled slightly, as though she had been convinced by Yi-Ching Luo. But when she heard Yi-Ching Luo's last sentence, her quick-witted, beautiful eyes suddenly blinked as she looked straight at the young man standing behind Yi-Ching Luo. Xiao Jin was looking at Yin Xiao Yi with a face filled with worry, as he agreed with what Yi-Ching Luo said. Chapter 996. Xiao Jin's face suddenly flushed red. He subconsciously avoided Yin Xiao Yi's gaze as his back faced her as he walked towards the other direction, afraid that Yin Xiao Yi would see the slight blush on his face, afraid that Yin Xiao Yi would find out that he had taken advantage of her while she was unconscious. However, this turn of events, in Yin Xiao Yi's eyes, there was another meaning. A trace of sadness flashed across her clear and beautiful eyes. It was concealed extremely well, disappearing in a flash. Following that, her red lips moved slightly as her voice was icy cold, without any emotion. The person he wants to accompany isn't me. I don't need him to accompany me. Saying that, she turned her head and left without even turning her head back. The green and white academy uniform floated with the wind, as though it set off a green ripple, as though a green lotus was slowly blooming. Yiqing Luo opened her mouth, but eventually pursed her pink lips tightly as she looked towards Xiao Jin's direction. Xiao Jin heard Xiao Yi's words very clearly just now. He was stunned by that sentence. Seeing Xiao Yi turning around to leave, he subconsciously lifted his leg to chase after her. But after taking a few steps, he felt that his actions seemed a little strange. He stood in a daze, not knowing what to do. What are you still in a daze for, Go? Yiqing Luo really wanted to knock open Xiao Jin's head to see what was in it. Usually he looked rather astute. Why was he so slow in terms of feelings? Xiao Jin responded to her and chased after Xiao Yi's direction in a daze. Xiao Yi pursed her lips tightly as her face was filled with sullen anger. She strode over to the class committee room and lifted her leg to push open the class committee room's door. She had just entered the class committee room when Xiao Jin followed closely behind. Xiao Yi shot a cold glance at him as she said indifferently, "Xiao Jin, why are you following me? I said I don't need you to accompany me." Xiao Jin's brows creased as he carefully stared at Xiao Yi's expression, taking small steps to her side. After he sat down, he realized that he was actually looking at Xiao Yi's expression. Instantly, a man's mentality surged up in his heart as he stared at Xiao Yi, pretending to be relaxed. "I'm not here to accompany you." Xiao Yi sneered as her lips curled upwards in self-ridicule. How long was she going to continue to be sentimental? She lowered her eyes and did not speak again. He just sat quietly on his desk, took out a book, and began to read. Xiao Jin, who had been neglected, did not feel good. Women are strange creatures. He had no idea what a woman was thinking. He was inexplicably angry. He was inexplicably ignoring her. Moreover, she didn't seem to notice that he had secretly hugged her. The silent atmosphere became increasingly strange. This lasted for the time it took for half an incense stick to burn. Xiao Jin finally couldn't restrain himself as he clenched his fists tightly and inched towards Xiao Yi's direction. "Yin, the person you want to accompany is not me, I know." Xiao Yi lifted her eyes and looked at him coldly. "So, go and accompany the person you want to accompany. Don't disturb me. You are the one I want to accompany." The words that he wanted to say were stuck in his throat. Xiao Jin scratched his head, feeling a little frustrated with his current feelings. What was going on? Why was it that, when he was facing Xiao Yi, he had a strange feeling? His mind and body were completely out of his control. Xiao Yi saw that he didn't speak and only took it as a tacit agreement. A hint of pain flashed across her eyes as she immediately put down the book in her hands. "If you're not leaving, I'll leave." With that said, she stood up and wanted to leave. Her wrist was suddenly grabbed by a large palm. Chapter 997. His strong and powerful hand suddenly exerted force. Xiao Yi was pressed against the wall with a bam. Xiao Jin's scorching hot body came crashing down. He grabbed her wrist and forcefully pressed it against the wall, his gaze burning as he stared at her unblinkingly. "And say it." His breath sprayed on her face. On Xiao Yi's expressionless face, there was a slight change in expression. She wanted to struggle, but she couldn't resist Xiao Jin's strength. He was still being overbearing. It was as if he wouldn't give up until he got the answer. Xiao Yi's eyelashes trembled slightly as she slowly shifted her gaze away, her voice still cold. "The person you want to accompany is Miss Tao Tao, isn't it? She's in low profound class 1. If you want to see her, you can go over any time." "Tao Zi." Xiao Jin frowned. When did he want to accompany Tao Zi? When did he say he wanted to see Tao Zi? What did he say he wanted to look for Tao Zi? What the hell was this woman babbling about? Xiao Yi also frowned. Xiao Jin's hot body pressed against her delicate body tightly. The softness of her chest was also touched by his thick chest. However, Xiao Jin didn't notice it at all. He just followed his instinctive reaction, not wanting Yin Xiao Yi to leave just like that. Get out of my way. Yin Xiao Yi couldn't bear it anymore as she gritted her teeth and raised her eyes, glaring at him fiercely. Xiao Jin's grip on her wrist tightened. That ordinary face that couldn't be considered handsome was now filled with a strong masculine charm, especially that pair of inky black eyes, as if it could absorb everything. Looking at it from this angle, Yin Xiao Yi only felt that she was about to sink into his pupils. Her heart suddenly beat faster. She panicked, not wanting Xiao Jin to see this little bit of emotion of hers. Pursing her red lips, she instinctively blurted out, "Xiao Jin, get out of my way. Since you like Tao Tao so much, why don't you go look for her? Why do you have to harass me? I don't want to see you. I hate MMPH." The slightly cold lips directly covered Yin Xiao Yi's lips. His kiss was very forceful, very jerky. Without any technique, he just blocked her lips randomly, not wanting her to say those hurtful words out her mouth. Yin Xiao Yi was stunned. What was he doing? He actually kissed her? There was a faint pain coming from his lips. Xiao Jin was actually biting her lips without any restraint. Yin Xiao Yi was both annoyed and amused. In his heart, he was incomparably satisfied. His lack of finesse is proof that he is clean. This was his first kiss. It was also her first kiss. Yin Xiao Yi didn't struggle, but raised her head cooperatively. She wanted to wrap her arms around his body. However, Xiao Jin suddenly pushed her away and took a few steps back in panic. Yin Xiao Yi bumped into the wall. Her beautiful eyes were filled with charm as she looked at him in confusion. Xiao Jin's face was filled with shock as he bowed deeply toward her. I'm sorry. I didn't do it on purpose. Just pretend that today's events didn't happen. I didn't mean to do this." He did not look at Yin Xiao Yi's expression. Turning around, he left the class committee room as if he was escaping, leaving Yin Xiao Yi, whose face was gradually turning pale, alone in the class committee room, staring blankly at his back view as he left. What did he mean by this? Pretend that nothing happened? That kiss was just a spur of the moment. It didn't mean anything, right? He was very disgusted. Kissing her? The petite figure leaning against the wall slowly slid down, until finally she sat on the ground. She wrapped her arms around her knees and curled herself up. Chapter 998. In the following days, Devil Class's students obviously sensed the strangeness between Xiao Jin and Yin Xiao Yi. In the past, whenever Yin Xiao Yi appeared, Xiao Jin would definitely be by her side. Beside Xiao Jin, Yin Xiao Yi would definitely be there. However, these few days, wherever Yin Xiao Yi appeared, Xiao Jin would definitely find an excuse to slip away. As time went by, Yin Xiao Yi simply stayed in Baiming Lu Lu's room, receiving Baiming Lu Lu's recuperation, not taking a single step out. Yiqing Luo sensed their abnormality. She asked Xiao Jin, but didn't get any response. She only knew that something must have happened between the both of them. Since they didn't say anything, then only they themselves could resolve it. Many a time, when it came to matters of the heart, other than herself, no one else could help her. Right now, the most important thing was the ability assessment was about to begin. The rules of the ability assessment were not much different from the Academy's entrance examinations. All of them entered the Heavenly Pagoda to undergo various abilities assessments. As it was a holiday, students from other academies and some famous people in the pugilistic world came to Heavenly Academy to spectate. Whereas Supreme Master Mo, who was also DMO Xian, was invited to the main seat by the director. The director was seated on his right-hand side. Not long later, the entire Academy's students gathered at the Heavenly Public Square. Each class's first and second class stood separately. Shangguan Lu Li, who was standing at the intermediate profound Class 2's position, raised her head, trying to search for Yiqing Luo's figure. But after sweeping through the entire place, she didn't see Yiqing Luo at all. Her gold-powdered eyes revealed a complacent smile. Yiqing Luo must be afraid, not daring to come. How would Devil Class dare to come? The assessment requires 10 students and above to be able to take part in the inter-class competition. In their Devil Class, only Yiqing Luo can do it, the others. Hee hee. To Devil class, it's simply too difficult to gather 10 students who can pass the assessment. Now, they're so frightened that they don't dare to come out. The surrounding students all open their mouths, expressing their disdain and ridicule. Just at this moment, they heard a sound of cold air being sucked in. They saw Yiqing Luo leading 9 people as she walked over slowly. The 9 of them were covered by a layer of black cloaks, concealing their entire bodies under the black cloaks. They looked timid, as if they had never seen such a big scene before. Seeing this kind of dressing, Shangguan Liuli directly mocked. Devil classes students are really smart. Knowing that they will be so embarrassed that they won't be able to see anyone, they specially covered their faces. Following that, she raised her voice. Yo, Devil class still knows how to be shameless? Many students could not help but burst out laughing. Looking at this posture, it did seem like he was afraid of losing face. Director frowned and looked towards Yiqing Luo's side. Student Yi, your Devil class only has these students? I reckon that only these 9 students would dare to come out and make a fool of themselves. Shangguan Liuli continued, her tone filled with unconcealable mockery. Yiqing Luo calmly raised her eyes. Her gaze was elegant and tranquil as she spat out every single word clearly. There are exactly 10 of us, that's enough. The students sucked in a breath of cold air. Devil class, that useless class actually dared to spout such nonsense? 10 people would be enough? They wanted to see how Yiqing Luo was going to use 10 people to pass the ability assessment. In front of the spectators, director repeated the rules of the ability assessment once again. Yiqing Luo finally understood it. The reason why director chose this day to conduct the ability assessment was to attract other students and cultivators to enter Heavenly Academy. Moreover, Supreme Mo's identity was the evaluator from the main courtyard. Chapter 999. The competition officially kicked off. The Heavenly Pagoda was the treasure of the Heavenly Academy. With 4 masters in charge, the Heavenly Pagoda shone with golden light. This golden light was even more dazzling than the sun in the sky. In an instant, all the students standing on the plaza disappeared without a trace. The Heavenly Pagoda could split into many different spaces, and it could also cut the same space into countless pieces. Each piece was forged by the thoughts of the 4 masters who used the pagoda. The 4 masters looked at the Heavenly Pagoda that suddenly grew bigger and landed in the middle of the square, and their faces revealed a satisfied smile. The content of this test, after a few days of discussion among the upper-level masters, the checkpoints designed could be said to be very dangerous. The first checkpoint, illusion, would probably eliminate many people. Everyone has evil thoughts, and with a slight touch, evil thoughts will devour reason. As the saying goes, if the heavens want to kill someone, they must first make him mad. Inside the Heavenly Pagoda, the first test space was filled with yellow sand. The eyes that were hidden by the golden light gradually saw clearly. This was a golden desert. At this time, there were about 70 people in the desert. Looking at the badges on the uniforms, most of them were low profound class 1, and there were more than 10 intermediate profound class 1 and 2 students. This test is not an individual test. If we are all together, we won't have to worry about other situations. A low profound class student said with a sigh of relief. The other students nodded in agreement. But in fact, everyone's heart was hanging. If the students of each class were to gather together, it was very likely that they would be killed by other classes. On the surface, the group of people seemed harmonious, but in fact there was a turbulent undercurrent. They walked for about half an hour. What is this place? Why can't I see the end? Some students were tired from walking, looked at the endless front, and sat down on the ground. What is this? The ground was full of golden sand, and each grain of sand was shining brightly under the sun. Both hands were buried deep in the sand, and the feeling of metal rubbing against the palm. It's gold, pure gold. Someone suddenly shouted, jumped up, knelt on the golden sand, and held up a handful of golden sand with both hands. The golden sand slowly slid down through the gaps between his fingers. The student was filled with joy and shouted, "That's right. This touch, it's pure golden sand." As soon as the student finished speaking, some students who were obsessed with money immediately knelt on the golden sand and picked up the handful of golden sand. After confirming that it was indeed pure gold sand, he excitedly grabbed a handful of sand. If you have a bag, put it in your bag. If you don't have a bag, take off your clothes and put them in your clothes. Wait. Lu Xiaoyu frowned when she saw that her students were about to step forward. This is the heavenly pagoda. How could there be pure gold sand here? Something feels off. The other students did not dare to step forward. Even though he was envious of the golden sand, he still felt that something was amiss. The students who couldn't fit in their backpacks and started to take off their clothes to pack the golden sand didn't listen to the persuasion of the students beside them. Suddenly, a student let out a blood-curdling scream. Everyone turned their heads to look. They saw that the hands of the students who were packing the golden sand had been worn down by the flowing golden sand, leaving only white bones. The legs that were kneeling on the golden sand were also white bones or bloody. It was terrifying. Everyone was shocked. In the next second, the group of students who were attracted by the golden sand flashed and disappeared in front of everyone. Chapter 1000. At the same time, there was another group of people not far away. It was different from the other groups. There were only 10 people in this group. It was Yi Qing Luo and the rest. The youngster with the gold coin dart in his hand looked at the golden sand on the ground and immediately lifted the black gauze that blocked his vision, revealing a pair of shining eyes. The golden sand on the ground is full of gold. If I can use it to cast my gold coin dart can be upgraded. Just as he was about to bend down to pick up the golden sand, a cold voice came from above him. Jin Zi, do you want to die? Then, a red feather fan slapped him on the head with a cool breeze. Only to hear a pa sound, Qiao Jin's muddled brain instantly sobered up. Following that, cold sweat dripped down from his forehead as he scolded himself for being careless and almost fell into the trap. Tell me, are you stupid? Everything in the Heaven Pagoda is fake. You took it for real? This kind of situation kept happening in this desert. At least hundreds of students were lured by the golden sand, buried under the sand, and lost the qualification to take the test. Outside the pagoda, Master of Justice was tasting the best quality tea as he looked at the Heaven Pagoda full of golden light, his eyes full of ridicule. Elder Yin Duan stroked his white beard. Isn't the content of this assessment a little too much? Adding an array in the illusion. This is to attract the inner demons. Yun Xiang disagreed. No worries, otherwise we will die on the battlefield. Master of Justice's white brows raised slightly as he stared at another batch of students who were sent out, his eyes deeper. How many people do you think will pass the first round? Yin Duan said word by word. Less than half. The dean sat on the high seat in the middle, his face cold as he stared at the pagoda without a word. His eyes were filled with a black storm, as if he was thinking about something. In the desert, Yi Qing Luo and the other 10 people had been moving in one direction. Suddenly, they heard someone calling out behind them, only to see 20 over students waving in their direction excitedly. Obviously, they had met their companions and wanted to join them. When they rushed forward, Yi Qing Luo could see from their badges. This was a small team from Intermediate Profound Class 2, and there were 7 students from Low Profound Class. When these people saw Yi Qing Luo, the joy on their faces instantly dissipated. Students of the Devil Class. A student from the Useless Class. Immediately, everyone's expression changed. Without saying a word, he walked past them and continued to walk forward. Partnering with a class of trash, he did not know what would happen in the golden sand desert in the next moment. Partnering with a class of trash, he would definitely be burdened to death. These 20 over students' actions didn't make Yi Qing Luo and the others furious. They didn't pay any attention to the 20 or so people and continued forward. The 20 or so people who were exhausted from all the walking suddenly felt their anger surging out. People from the Devil Class also dare to participate in the interclass competition. Only 10 students are participating in the test. What a joke. Yeah, they're obviously a bunch of trash. Trash should act like trash. Look at them. Don't they look like followers? Ha ha ha. Followers? You think too highly of them. They're following behind us because they want to take advantage of the situation. They want us to explore the path ahead while they reap the benefits. Who knows, maybe one or two of them will survive until the end under everyone's protection. Isn't that like a dog wagging its tail and begging for mercy? Chapter 1001. Shut up. A cold and sullen voice was heard as a slender lady with a black veil walked forward from behind Yiqing Luo. Through the black veil, that pair of icy cold eyes seemed to have no emotions at all as she stared at them icily. The invisible viciousness and aura caused the 20-odd people to freeze. A waist class actually had someone with such a strong aura. They were actually scared stiff by a waste from the waist class till they didn't dare to speak. Why? You waste don't allow others to speak? Waste is waste. You devil class are all a bunch of waste. You don't have the ability and still want to put on a brave front, taking part in the interclass competition. Still thinking of getting first place? What qualifications do you have to compete with high profound class students? Get first place? One of the students raised his voice in disbelief as he started laughing wildly. Don't make me laugh to death, all right, get first place? Don't you know that the class which gets first place in the interclass competition will represent Heavenly Academy to compete with other academies' classes? Just based on you? Don't throw our Heavenly Academy's face, all right. Pack, pack, pack. A few crisp slapping sounds were heard. Those students who were ridiculing felt a shadow flashing past their eyes as their faces flushed red. Faintly, they felt a strong burst of profound qi coming towards them. Their hearts were overwhelmed with shock as they held onto their red faces, staring at Yiqing Luo in shock. But they saw Yiqing Luo turning her head to look at the lady behind her. Ziqing, don't be anxious, it's not the time yet. A slender jade hand patted on Tong Ziqing's shoulder, suppressing the profound qi which was released from her body. A cool feeling followed that voice, cleansing Tong Ziqing's vicious aura. There's something fishy about this golden desert. It's constantly enlarging the evil thoughts in our hearts, so it's better to leave as soon as possible. Saying that, her vision congealed towards Long Yunjian. Ajan, look at Ziqing. Everyone pay attention to adjusting your temperament. Long Yunjian indifferently walked up as he raised his hand and pressed on Tong Ziqing's shoulder. Tong Ziqing's petite body trembled as she stared blankly at Long Yunjian. The flame around her instantly dissipated as she obediently followed Long Yunjian as he retreated. Those 20-over students didn't know what they were muttering softly about. He could only stare at Yiqing Luo with an ugly expression. They all felt that the person who slapped them earlier was Yiqing Luo. After all, in Devil class, only Yiqing Luo alone had the ability to hurt them. Yiqing Luo bypassed Long Yunjian and walked directly in front of everyone. Her slender fingers gently pointed at the crowd in front of her. That group of people's hearts trembled slightly. Some of the low-class students even took a few steps back, afraid that Yiqing Luo would make a move again. Yiqing Luo smiled as her charming eyes fixed on them. That side is the east, you guys head east. Then, he pointed in another direction and said, let's head west. Saying that, Yiqing Luo led the other 9 people and directly turned around, walking towards the direction which she had pointed out. The faces of the 20-odd students were ashen. They could only glare at their departing silhouettes. Yiqing Luo and the rest walked out 100 meters away, and gradually, they could no longer see those 20-over figures. An eye Ruo Pan then scooted over to Yiqing Luo's side in puzzlement as she raised her head and looked at the sun hanging in the sky. Qing Luo and the others, how did you know that is the east side? Other than the unmoving sun above our heads, there's nothing else to indicate the direction. I'm just making things up. Yiqing Luo opened up her arms as she shrugged her shoulders. Chapter 1002. Xiao Jin exclaimed, what the? You said it so seriously, I even believed you. Long Yunjian's gaze looked at the surroundings indifferently as he spoke calmly. In the vast sea of sand, we can only keep moving forward to find the exit to the next round. This time you're too rash. No one knew what would happen in the next second in this sea of sand. They could only move forward to ensure their safety. but their rhythm was disrupted by those low profound class and intermediate profound class students. Yiqing Luo lowered her head to look at the golden sand on the ground as she stepped on it and sank deep into it. The golden sand groped for their shoes as it gave off a rustling sound. Along the way, they saw numerous students being swallowed by the golden sand into white bones due to their greed towards the golden sand, failing the assessment. Immediately, Yiqing Luo's mind cleared up as she seemed to have thought of something as she muttered to herself for a moment. I think the exit isn't in the surroundings, but under our feet. Everyone stopped in their tracks as they lowered their heads to look at the dazzling golden sand. The exit that we're looking for is right under this golden sand, which corrodes human flesh. If I didn't guess wrongly, this should be an illusion zone, coupled with an illusory space which is constructed by an array which hooks people's evil thoughts. No matter how far we walk, we're actually going in circles on the same spot. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly. Ever since they entered, she had an extremely strange feeling. That was a kind of estrangement feeling, as though the entire world and her were estranged. But strictly speaking, this estrangement was started by her. This was a human sense of self-protection towards danger. The stronger the person, the stronger their sense of perception. But there was some overstatement in this. Just like a woman's intuition, some people, even if they weren't strong, their intuition was very strong. Yiqing Luo's sense of perception had always been several times higher than ordinary people. Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up as she looked at Long Yunjian. Zhan, carefully sense it. Do you have a strange feeling? Long Yunjian nodded as his azure blue eyes closed slightly. His profound heart, Jade, slowly released its profound qi as it communicated with heaven and earth. Suddenly, he opened his eyes, and a ray of light flashed past his eyes as he said, "Sense of isolation." Tong Ziqing also followed suit as she shut her eyes. After sensing for some time, she opened her eyes as her cold eyes swept past them. Sense of isolation? What sense of isolation? Why can't I feel it? Xiao Jin also quickly opened his eyes and nodded. That's right. Now that you've mentioned it, I've also felt a strange feeling. It's just that my feeling is rather weak. If I don't take the initiative to investigate, I think I wouldn't be able to feel it. It seems that this kind of feeling can only be felt by people above the earth profound realm. Long Yunjian's expression was solemn. There are many people above the earth profound realm here. I think someone will notice us very soon. We have to be one step ahead of them. That's right. We must be one step ahead of the others and get first place. But how are we going to break the formation? And Rupen nodded in agreement. Yiqing Luo stretched her waist. Now that we know where the exit is, isn't it easy to break the array? Just break it. The biggest weakness of the Golden Desert was this sense of isolation. As long as he focused his attention on the sense of isolation, he would definitely be able to break through the formation and enter the next stage. Zhan, Jinzi, the only ones above Earth Xian are the three of us. Yiqing Luo arranged. We'll first use Earth Profound Grade Profound Qi to sense the entrance of the isolation point. As long as we sever this link, we'll be able to sever this array. Chapter 1003. The sense of isolation came from the golden desert beneath her feet. The connection point must be somewhere beneath her feet. But where on earth was it? Yiqing Luo's perception was at its strongest as she stared at the desert beneath her feet. Suddenly, her mind suddenly recalled what Ruo Pan said. The unmoving sun above her head. Right? The sun. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes abruptly as she used her hand to block her eyes as she gazed at that glaring sun. The entire golden desert, other than the ground filled with gold, there was only this sun in the sky, which was something created by the heavenly pagoda. This sun must be the crucial method to break the array. The sun gave off a scorching and glaring light, so piercing that Yiqing Luo shut her eyes. Half squinting her eyes, she stared at the sun for a long time. Indeed, she discovered something strange. There seemed to be shadows in the sun. Many, many shadows. As she looked at it clearer, those shadows started to overlap. There were only 10 shadows left. Those 10 people, wasn't it? Them? Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased as she quickly reacted. In the sun were the shadows of all the students from the participating classes. So when she looked at the sun and examined the reflection of the sun, it would reflect the shadows of the 10 of them, which meant to say, the source of the sense of isolation was the sun, right? She now felt this sense of isolation as though they were separated into another world. This world was the sun. The sun is the connection point of the separation. Yi Qing Luo's words had just ended when Xiao Jin and Long Yunzhan flew up. Their figures speedily dashed towards the direction of the sun. The profound qi in their hands swiftly split that sun into pieces. When the two of them stood steadily on the ground, the entire golden desert was suddenly filled with a thin fog. There was no trace or outline of anything in the surroundings. Their first round, evil thoughts and greed, had passed. By the time the surrounding white fog dispersed, Yi Qing Luo and the rest then discovered that the group of them were in a dark and spacious underground palace. That's right, the space had changed into another one, which was the second round. When they surveyed their surroundings, a sliver of astonishment flashed past their eyes. This underground palace was built with huge bluestones, and the ground was covered with moss. The space here was huge, and those students who were forced to enter the Golden Desert were all standing here like terracotta soldiers. However, these students all had different expressions. Some people's faces were calm, while others were deathly pale. Some people's eyelids twitched as if they were about to wake up, while others' foreheads were dripping with cold sweat. What kind of space did the heavenly pagoda create? Xiao Jin stared at those students, a trace of ruthlessness flashing across his eyes. Are we going to make a move now? To be honest, after entering the heavenly pagoda, Xiao Jin's emotions had been on the verge of exploding. Thus, in the golden desert, he was corroded by evil thoughts and wanted to take away the golden sand. Ever since he had forcefully kissed Yin Xiao Yi that day, he had been thinking about that kiss and the hug that day. The more he thought about it, the more confused he became. The more chaotic it was, the more he wanted to escape. The emotions that had accumulated in the bottom of his heart were ready to be unleashed. He really wanted to have a good fight to vent the emotions in his heart. Yi Qing Luo squinted at him as her palm placed on his shoulder. A surge of dark force overflowed from his palm. This surge of profound energy was like a clear spring, flowing into Xiao Jin's heart. Chapter 1004. The few of them nodded when they heard that. The 10 of them carefully bypassed those people and came to a huge door. There were 2 candles on both sides of the door. There were 2 arm-thick candles on the candles. These 2 candles weren't burning with ordinary flames, but a dark green flame like ghost fire, illuminating the door with a faint green glow. As for the 2 doors, they were covered in red paint. The door was 6 to 7 meters high, and above the door were 2 golden lion titles hanging with a golden ring. Looking up, there was a plaque. On the huge plaque, there were golden words, Gates of Hell. And Ruo Pan's eyes widened. Gates of Hell? It's recorded in the books that the Gates of Hell is the door to the netherworld, and only dead people can enter. Moreover, the miasma grows, and there are many mosquitoes, rats, and ants. In the night, it's shrouded by a white fog, and the birds are wailing. It's terrifying. Speaking of this, Ruo Pan shuddered. Tong Ziqing's cold eyes swept past that strange door as she frowned. Don't tell me we're dead? Yi Qing Luo shook her head. Impossible. Even if someone has the intention to kill us, those masters and elders outside the heavenly pagoda will absolutely not sit idly by. She walked up and tried to push the door, but the door didn't budge. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she tried to pull the door, but it still didn't budge. She didn't know what material this door was made of. It seemed as heavy as 1,000 caddies, and no matter how much strength she used, she couldn't open it. Ruo Pan, did the books say how to open the gates of hell? Yi Qing Luo gave up and turned her head to look at Ruo Pan. Ruo Pan pondered for a moment and said, according to her memory, it said that the gates of hell can only be opened by ghosts. We're finished. Aren't we going to die? Xiao Jin's expression changed drastically. Shut up. Bai Ming Lu rolled her eyes at Xiao Jin as she thought of her best friend, who was getting depressed because of him. Her heart was filled with unspeakable anger. Although Yin Xiao, he didn't show any extra emotions on the surface. The injuries on her, the poison, had all been cured. But Bai Ming Lu could tell. Yin Xiao Yi's heart was hurt. As for her, as the descendant of the divine doctor family, she could cure all kinds of complicated illnesses. But it could not cure the heart disease. Thinking of this, Bai Ming Lu's tone became more and more unfriendly. Don't talk so much. Don't disturb Ruo Pan. Once he finished speaking, he pushed Ouyangming away and moved closer to Nai Rupin. Rupin, go on. Nai Rupin looked at Xiao Jin awkwardly. Under Bai Ming Lu's gaze, he continued. The books mention that people have 3 spiritual and 7 physical souls. After death, the 3 spiritual and 7 physical souls enter the gates of hell. Only the 3 insects in the human body, also known as the 3 corpses, will roam the human world. Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up when she heard that. I understand now. The 3 worms were also known as Ju, by representing greed, anger, and obsession respectively. In other words, as long as we don't have any desires or thoughts, we can pass through the gates of hell. Xiao Jin walked over. Let me try. With that, he closed his eyes and put his palms together like an old monk in meditation. After a while, he opened his eyes and walked toward the red door. His eyes were calm and unperturbed. Bang! It hit the door. Xiao Jin pinched his nose. It doesn't work. Devil classes students, and I, Rupin, suddenly pointed to the 2 sides of the door as he cried out in surprise. Quick! Look! There are words. Above the faint green candle flame, the smoke curled up into the air and gradually converged into 2 lines of words. A line on the left and right. Chapter 1005. Xiao Jin's brows rose as his pupils reflected a green glow under the candlelight. He propped his chin as he stared at those 2 lines of words with interest. Interesting. What do you think? Should I buckle the left one or the right one? Or after the left one to buckle the right one? Or after the right one, buckle the left one? Or both at the same time? The other 9 people looked at him as though they were looking at an idiot. Xiao Jin didn't understand what was going on as he rubbed the back of his head and was about to open his mouth. Shut up. Bai Ming Lu berated in a low voice as she stopped Xiao Jin. Yiqing Luo walked to the door as she raised her slender hand to fiddle with that golden hoop. But when the golden hoop was in her hand, it was as heavy as 1,000 caddies and not easy to move. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as both her hands held onto the golden hoop. A burst of profound qi broke out from her body as she borrowed the power of her profound qi to lift the golden hoop. But unexpectedly, this lift, both sides of the golden hoop were lifted at the same time. Immediately following that, the golden hoop landed heavily on the big red door, only to hear a dang sound, as though the ancient temple's huge bell had been rung. It shook Yiqing Luo's hands till they went numb. The dang sound reverberated in the entire space. When it ended, Yiqing Luo's hands were still trembling slightly. This knock on the door, although it didn't open that door, but it wasn't totally useless. At least, that group of people who had fallen into the illusion were jolted awake. The moment they regained consciousness, they gave out terrified cries from their mouths. Each of them were panting heavily, as though they had experienced immense pain. After they regained consciousness, they realized that they were still in the dark underground palace and had not experienced what they had imagined, so they all heaved a sigh of relief. Following that, they saw the 10 people standing not too far away from them. Shangwan Lioli was the first to change her expression. She wiped off the cold sweat on her forehead as what she had experienced in the illusion made her extremely terrified. When she saw Yiqing Luo and the others, it was as though she had seen an outlet to vent her anger. She dashed forward as she roared furiously. Is it you guys? Did you guys intentionally bring us here to let us experience that kind of thing? The other classes students all looked towards Yiqing Luo and the others. When they discovered that Yi Qing Luo and the others were still in the same group, their expressions changed slightly. The trash of the devil class had actually passed the first round of assessment. Furthermore, he wasn't affected by the illusions like they were. How could this be? Unless they were affected by the illusion, and it was Yi Qing Luo's doing. Thinking of this, the students from the other classes started to stare angrily at Yi Qing Luo, as though they wanted to settle scores with her. Yi Qing Luo withdrew her numb and trembling hands and placed them behind her back. Not far away, he glanced at the students from the various classes who were rushing over. Immediately, the corner of his mouth hooked up into a mocking sneer. With this IQ of yours, how dare you claim to be students of the Heavenly Academy? What a disgrace to the Heavenly Academy. You. Not only was Shangwan Liuli furious, but the other students were also furious. He was scolding all of them. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. Are you not stupid? Think about it carefully. What kind of space are we in right now? High-profound class students were the first to react. After Yi Qing Luo's reminder, he immediately stared at Shangwan Liuli. They were all criticizing this meddlesome woman. Chapter 1006. They were now in the Heavenly Academy's Heavenly Pagoda. The space here was created by the elders and the four masters of the pagoda. Everything that happened here was controlled by the four great masters. No matter how capable Yi Qing Luo was, she couldn't possibly do anything to them in the Heavenly Pagoda, which meant the illusion that they had experienced earlier was a test of their abilities. They were trapped in the illusion and couldn't get out. It was Yi Qing Luo who woke them up. Shangwan Lu Li's brain naturally couldn't understand this matter. Hearing the high profound class's reprimand, her face turned gloomy. When did I deliberately provoke you? I'm telling the truth. We were all trapped in the illusion. Only they weren't. Lu Li, shut up. In the high profound class 2, Shangwan Fong walked out and berated Shangwan Lu Li. Third brother. Shangwan Lu Li's eyes widened. You're still speaking up for that slut? Don't you know that she was the one who hurt you a few days ago? Shangwan Fong Yi's face sunk as he felt helpless towards his sister's blabbermouth. He walked over and covered Shangwan Lu Li's mouth. Be quiet. Don't let the other students see the Shangwan family as a joke. Shangwan Lu Li struggled, although she was angry, but at least she kept her mouth shut. Intermediate Profound Class 2's monitor, Xie Yin, slowly walked towards Yi Qing Luo. Student Yi, I didn't expect to meet you in the second round. Meeting Yi Qing Luo wasn't strange at all. What was strange was that the other 9 people in Devil class were all standing there safe and sound. Xie Yin narrowed his eyes and suddenly understood why Yi Fengru asked him to find an opportunity to ask Yi Qing Luo to take part in the interclass competition. This Yi Qing Luo, but a mysterious existence that couldn't be seen through. There were too many surprises hidden on her, too many miracles. Such a mysterious and powerful existence was willing to stay in the Devil class, which was known as Waste class. If it wasn't for the attraction of the Devil class, why would Yi Qing Luo refuse to enter the class of gods and stubbornly stay in the Devil class? Wherever Yi Qing Luo was, he believed that everything would be extraordinary. These people from Devil class, I'm afraid, they're not ordinary. There are many unexpected things. Class monitor Xie, let's wait and see. Yi Qing Luo calmly met his gaze. Xie Yin smiled meaningfully and returned to his seat in Intermediate Profound Class 2. Xie Yin's prestige in the academy was also quite high. Seeing Xie Yin and Yi Qing Luo being so courteous, the other students naturally kept quiet. At the end of the High Profound class, Lu Shuiyu and Lu Shuelan were wiping the sweat on their foreheads with eyes full of doubt. Why, Yi Qing Luo and the others weren't affected by the mirage. Both classes from a high profound class were sucked into this space. In an instant, he was caught in an illusion and did not even have the chance to resist. What was going on? Looking at these students' expressions, Yi Qing Luo and the others linked it to the explanation from the gates of hell and roughly understood the reason. If he wanted to enter the gates of hell, he had to remove the 3 corpses. The second test was to test the capricious greed, anger, and infatuation. Because of this, after these students entered the second round, they were caught in the three corpses mirage test. As for them, it was possible that compared to the other students, the greed, anger, and infatuation in their hearts weren't as strong. Because of this, they were able to walk to the gates of hell safely. Chapter 1007. Now is not the time to discuss other things. Let's think of a way to leave this place. Lu Xiaoyu's voice was heard from the crowd. This place is too eerie. Perhaps we might be corroded by the illusion again. Mentioning the illusion, everyone's heart trembled. The feeling in the illusion earlier was still lingering in their hearts. It made them have a lingering fear. The students who were at loggerheads immediately quietened down. The sharp-eyed students discovered that there was a red wooden door behind Yiqing Luo and the rest. After giving a loud cry, they took the lead and ran towards the direction of the gates of hell. When the other students heard that, they naturally didn't want to be left behind. Totally disregarding the strange candle flame on the red wooden door, they only wanted to be the first to pass this round and be the first to get first place. Lu Xiaoyu still wanted to talk to Yiqing Luo, but was forcefully dragged by her classmates as they ran towards the gates of hell. Yiqing Luo and the rest shifted their position and didn't stop them, allowing them to rush towards the gates of hell. In just a short while, thousands of students had crowded the entire red wooden door. Yiqing Luo and the rest were all squeezed to a corner. The student who rushed at the front stretched out his hand and grabbed the golden hoop as he pulled it hard. Only to hear a creak sound, the huge red wooden door slowly opened. What? Just based on them, they can open the gates of hell? Xiao Jin stared in disbelief at the gates of hell, which was slowly opening, revealing a glaring white light. He rubbed his eyes fiercely and secretly lifted the black veil on his face to take a look at that door. It had indeed been opened. The one who couldn't calm down the most was Yiqing Luo. Wasn't it said that only those who had no desires could open the gates of hell? Her hands were still trembling from the shock of the golden hoop. That intermediate profound class student easily opened it. If that student who opened the gates of hell really had no desires, then he wouldn't be the first to rush to the front. She might have just opened a fake gates of hell. After the gates of hell were opened, numerous students were cheering, just as they were about to rush forward. But they saw a strong, glaring white light shooting out from the open door. In a split second, it swallowed the first row of students. In a split second, it swallowed the entire student. Those cheering students' voices came to an abrupt halt. They watched in horror as the white light engulfed the students in front of them. After being covered by the white light, the person disappeared from this space. This was not the white light to enter the next checkpoint or to leave the upper profound pagoda. Instead, it was a kind of man-eating light. The students immediately turned around. How fast had he rushed to the gates of hell? How fast could he run back now? However, even if they condensed their chi into their legs and sped up their escape, they would not be able to escape. However, he was still no match for the speed of the white light. Even for Yiqing Luo, she hadn't even noticed it in time when she was enveloped by a stretch of white light. Outside the heavenly pagoda, a teacher was standing outside the pagoda, using his chi to amplify his voice as he explained what had happened inside the pagoda. DMO, Xin narrowed his long and narrow peach blossom eyes as he gazed deeply at the heavenly pagoda. When he heard about the devil class, the 10 students broke through the illusion of greed in the first round and successfully reached the second round. His eyes flashed. Then he heard the teacher say that all the students had been swallowed into the gates of hell. His brows furrowed slightly. Chapter 1008. Following that, the director pointed to the medical hall's doctors who were carrying the eliminated students away. These students only suffered from mental trauma. After resting for a day in the medical hall, they will be back to normal. DMO Xian's brows rose slightly. His deep gaze was like a whirlpool as he looked straight at the director. That gaze sent a chill down the director's spine. But he saw DMO Xian's lips curled up slightly as he gave an elegant smile. Why did director want to conduct a class ability assessment? And it seems to be testing the students' souls if they are clean. The two words soul made the director's white brows twitch. although his face did not reveal any emotions. But DMO Xian's sharp senses could sense that the director already had a kind of flustered from having his thoughts poked out. The director laughed dryly, because this time, Devil Class's students will be taking part. Supreme MO teaches Devil Class, so he should understand Devil Class's aptitude. I suggested the ability assessment is also for Devil Class's sake. Facing the evaluators from the main courtyard. If the director wanted to obtain the Best Academy title, then he had to curry favor with Supreme MO. He placed himself in the position of a good director who was wholeheartedly thinking for the students. This teacher indeed understands Devil Class's students' aptitude. Who else knew Devil Class's students' aptitude better than him? It's precisely because of Devil Class's students' aptitude and student Yiqing Luo. In order to fight for her face, she had to drag Devil Class's students to take part in the interclass competition. As the director spoke, he sighed helplessly. In the interclass competition, although it's only a matter of time, but after all swords have no eyes. In order to fight for a good ranking, these students will definitely give it their all. I'm afraid it will hurt Devil Class's students. Because of this, I follow the elder's suggestion to conduct an ability assessment. If Devil Class is able to pass the assessment, then I can rest assured. At least in the interclass competition, Devil Class's students will not get into any big trouble. And if they don't pass the assessment, then that means my previous concerns are correct. DMO Xian gently curled up his lips, indifferent as snow, elegant as the wind. I see. I've troubled the director. It's the student's blessing to have such a considerate principal in the Heavenly Academy. Ha! Ha! The dean secretly wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and heaved a sigh of relief. Since I'm in this position, I must make an equal contribution. As long as the students can achieve something, even if I have to climb a mountain of swords or plunge into a sea of flames, I'll do it. DMO Xian's serene eyes narrowed slightly, and his elegant smile revealed some incisiveness. However, upon closer inspection, there was only a bottomless whirlpool. After the white light was swallowed, what was left in front of Yiqing Luo was a dusky scene. The surroundings were quiet. The thousands of students had already disappeared without a trace. Even Long Yunzhan and the others didn't hear any signs of them. She was the only one in the entire space. Yiqing Luo looked around for a moment. Soon he understood. After the gates of hell opened, the white light sucked each of them into an independent space. She was the only one in this space. As he was looking around, the white light around him suddenly dissipated. A 15-story pagoda appeared in front of them. A familiar figure appeared in front of her. Chapter 1009. Old Man Song raised his illusory palm and rubbed her head. Lass, you have to do your best in the 15th floor of the Purgatory Tower. Once you succeed, you will obtain all the secret arts of the 15th floor. It will definitely allow you to reach the peak of the strong. No one can compare to you. Yiqing Luo was stunned. She hadn't had the time to attempt the 2nd floor. Why was it the 15th floor? Before she could think carefully, she was pushed by Old Man Song towards the Purgatory Tower. Lass, go ahead. I can't wait to see you stand at the peak. Yiqing Luo abruptly halted her footsteps, feeling that something was wrong. But just as she was about to think carefully, her brain felt a throbbing pain. It was as if something was forcing her, preventing her from thinking deeply about other things. What are you still hesitating for? As long as you break through the 15th floor, not to mention DMO, Xian, even in the upper realm, you will be unimpeded. Old Man Song advised earnestly as he pushed her forward. DMO, Xian. These 3 words made Yiqing Luo's brain suddenly clear up. Her eyes lit up and directly stretched out her hand, pressing on the hand on her shoulder. It was extremely cold to the touch. It made Yiqing Luo's mind become clearer. She lowered her voice with some coldness. Old Man Song, if I force my way through the 15th floor, will I be completely engulfed by it? How could that be? Old Man Song immediately shook his head. Why would I lie to you? With your strength, you can totally pass through the 15th floor of the Purgatory Tower. As long as you pass, what awaits you is the peak and heaven-defying power. Yi Qing Luo increased the strength of her 5 fingers. She directly cut off Old Man Song's wrist, and immediately the glower flame fan in her hand had already slid towards his neck. "Who are you?" Yi Qing Luo stared coldly at this person who looked extremely similar to Old Man Song. He was not Old Man Song. Absolutely not. Old Man Song would never say such certain words. Everything he does, he will only stand in my position and think for my sake. He will not bear to let any accidents happen to me. Yi Qing Luo stared indifferently at the slightly pale face of Old Man Song. "If you don't speak, this glower flame fan in my hand will not have eyes." Old Man Song sneered. That face of Old Man Song gradually transformed into another Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo, who looked exactly the same as her. Yi Qing Luo had yet to finish her words. That Yi Qing Luo, who looked exactly the same as her, gave an enchanting smile. "In my heart, the most greedy and persistent thing is to become the strong, to step onto the peak of the strong, to have enough qualifications to stand by Ah Xian's side, to let everyone acknowledge the relationship between us." Just as she finished her words, Yi Qing Luo's figure gradually turned into ashes under the hazy white light. Well, what was going on? What did that Old Man Song and herself mean? Why did he say what she was obsessed with so clearly? Before she could think clearly, the white light in front of him dissipated again, and the scene in front of him turned into a joyous wedding hall. Xiao Jin and the rest stood behind her. Seeing Yi Qing Luo in a daze, he laughed. "Qing Luo, don't put on a bitter face. Today is your master's big day. If your master sees your expression, he will blame you." Yi Qing Luo was stunned. "Master, Qing Luo, are you feeling unwell?" Yin Xiao worriedly held onto Yi Qing Luo's arm. Her slender fingers wiped the cold sweat on her forehead. Yi Qing Luo was enlightened. Coincidentally, she heard a joyous shout from the door. "The newlyweds have entered the hall. The newlyweds have entered the hall. Congratulations, newlyweds. Congratulations, newlyweds." Following that, she saw 2 figures dressed in red wedding robes walking into the hall. Chapter 10:10. The man's tall figure and the red robe he wore at his waist made his peerlessly handsome face seem even more incomparably handsome. The woman was dressed in a fiery phoenix robe, and she looked like a phoenix spreading its wings as she walked. That lady's face was covered by a red veil, but Yi Qing Luo was sure that she didn't know this lady. But she knew that man. Furthermore, it couldn't be any more ripe. DMO Xian. He actually married another woman? Who was that woman? Yi Qing Luo's complexion was as pale as paper, and her petite body was trembling slightly, making Long Yunjian beside her worried. He held Yi Qing Luo's little hand, as one arm gently wrapped around her shoulder. "Qing Luo, what's the matter with you? Why are your hands so cold?" With that, Long Yunjian had already held her hands, placed them by his lips, and breathed gently. Yi Qing Luo's hands trembled as she abruptly withdrew her hands. "You, what are you doing?" Long Yunjian, who was pushed away, looked at her in confusion. His azure blue eyes were as clear as water, reflecting her pale face. Yi Qing Luo shook her hands, her mind in a daze. What was going on? Everything seemed to be developing in a strange direction. Why would DMO Xian marry another woman? Why would Long Yunjian do something that only lovers would do to her? On the other hand, Xiao Jin and the others felt that it was normal. "Qing Luo." A deep voice was heard from the middle of the wedding hall. This voice belonged to DMO Xian. He was calling her. Yi Qing Luo instinctively looked over, but she obviously felt it. DMO Xian's gaze when he looked at her was not like his usual gentle and pampering gaze, but it was cold and elegant, extremely indifferent gaze. When he called her name, it was no longer the affectionate and sweet little Luo. Instead, his tone was completely flat, as if he was calling an unimportant person. Yi Qing Luo's heart suddenly felt dull pain. In the future, she will be your master's wife. In front of your master's wife, you must not lose your composure. DMO Xian's quiet voice sounded indifferently. When he looked at the woman next to him, his gaze became extremely gentle. After that, he held the bride's hand and walked to the place where the ceremony was to take place. Master's wife? What bullsh asterisk T master's wife? He was not her master. How could he look at other women with such gentle eyes? His eyes should only be looking at her. Only her. Yiqing Luo's heart was filled with a raging fury. She stared fiercely at the scene in front of her, wishing that she could go forward and tear apart the red silk between the two of them and tear apart the wedding robes on their bodies. She did the same. Yiqing Luo rushed forward and grabbed the red silk between the two of them, directly grabbing the lady's phoenix robe. Who are you? Where did this vixen come from? How dare you snatch my man? She raised her hand and removed the red veil from the bride's head. That was a breathtakingly beautiful face. Her makeup was exquisite. Her eyebrows were like the moon, her eyes were like stars, and her face was like a peach blossom. A pair of watery and beautiful eyes seemed to be able to speak, as if a pool of spring water could be seen. This lady's beauty was totally different from Yiqing Luo's. Yiqing Luo was a flamboyant, enchanting beauty. She, on the other hand, had the kind of beauty that was as gentle as water. It was as if in front of her, anything that was hard would melt into a puddle of water. Qing Luo, what are you doing? DMO Xin berated sternly, as he furiously snatched the red veil from Yiqing Luo's hands. Apologize to your master's wife. Chapter 10:11. Dilang? What a disgusting term. Who allowed her to call DMO Xin that? Yiqing Luo's eyes turned scarlet. DMO Xin was hers. He could only be hers. DMO Xin gently caressed the bride's face as he sighed softly. If Qing Luo was half as obedient as you, I wouldn't need to worry so much. Dilang's disciple is my disciple. The bride shyly lowered her eyelids. DMO Xin gave a gentle smile. That smile pierced Yiqing Luo's eyes. She clenched her fists tightly as her eyes were filled with resentment as she pointed at the bride. DMO Xin, tell me, this woman, who is she? Presumptuous. Following that, a slap landed on her face. DMO Xin's expression sunk as he stared coldly at her face, which was filled with disbelief as he spoke icily. Qing Luo, mind your own status. If you continue to be so rude and disrespectful to your master's wife, I will expel you from the sect. Qing Luo. Long Yinzhan walked up from the back as he stretched out his hand and wrapped it around her shoulders as he asked warmly, What's the matter with you? You don't recognize Miss Foam? Miss Foam? What Miss Foam? She had never heard of her before. Long Yinzhan, burn her down. If she continues to create trouble, the marriage between you two, then forget about it. DMO Xin's brows surfaced traces of anger. His brows were tightly knitted as he stared coldly at Long Yinzhan. Long Yinzhan's expression changed as his arms wrapped around Yiqing Luo as he coaxed softly. Qing Luo, for our marriage, don't make your master angry now. Come, let's go down first. Marriage? Her and Long Yinzhan's marriage? Yiqing Luo felt that her thoughts were getting more and more chaotic, as though there were many things that she was about to forget. How could she have a marriage with Long Yinzhan? And from DMO Xin and Long Yinzhan's tone, it was obvious that she had long set a marriage agreement with Long Yinzhan, but she had not gotten DMO Xin's pain, and she knew this Miss Foam and even supported her in DMO Xin's marriage. Her mind was spinning rapidly as she was already half carried by Long Yinzhan as they walked towards the wedding hall's entrance. The whispers of the surrounding guests could be heard. What's going on with D. Zun's little disciple? It's like he's bewitched. Look at the way she's looking at the Overlord. It's as if she's caught her lover fooling around with another woman. Could it be that the Overlord and his little disciple don't talk nonsense? We all know the relationship between Lord D. Zun and Miss Foam. Along the way, it was so touching and moving, so sincere that I started to believe in love again. How could the Overlord fall for another woman? That's true. Miss Foam is a supreme expert who is second only to the Overlord, and she's also the East Continent's royal princess with a distinguished status. How could a mere Yiqing Luo possibly seduce the Overlord? The Overlord and Miss Feng are a match made in heaven. They are a perfect match. Yi Qing Luo's mind was in a daze from what she heard. Second only to Dmo Xian, and a princess of the imperial family? How could this woman be so outstanding? Hearing those words like made in heaven, perfect match, etc., it made Yi Qing Luo's heart started to feel a stab of pain. Her heart was in so much pain that she was unable to control her own emotions. She only felt that Dmo Xian's gaze towards the bride was exceptionally piercing to her eyes. From the bottom of her heart, a surge of anger and intense resentment surged up. Her eyes suddenly turned piercingly cold. Chapter 10:12. Dmo Xian, I will never allow you to marry other women. Her face was icy cold as the glower flame fan in her hand swiftly stirred up a hurricane. She took a step forward and moved to the bride's side. Her 5 fingers swiftly clasped onto the bride's neck. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were scarlet red, as it was filled with uncontrollable anger. Just as she thought that she was about to kill this woman who snatched Dmo Xian away. However, she saw that gentle and lovable woman holding her hand when they came into close contact. The bride's red lips were like flames as she smiled sinisterly. She leaned close to Yi Qing Luo's ear and spoke in a ruthless tone. Yi Qing Luo, give up, this man is mine. In his eyes, there's only my existence. So what if you kill me? He will kill you and then commit suicide for me. The icy cold words made Yi Qing Luo's ears buzz. She subconsciously let go of the glower flame fan in her hand. She wanted to cover her ears. She didn't want to listen to the bride's provocative words. But unexpectedly, the bride who was holding her wrist suddenly cried out in panic. Qing Luo, don't be like this. I don't want to hurt you. Following that, the bride swayed and fell backwards. Yi Qing Luo frowned as she looked towards the bride. A ray of cold light flashed past her. A sharp, long sword pierced into her abdomen. Pain. Excruciating pain. Heart-wrenching pain. She could feel the blood in her body gushing out continuously. But no matter how painful the wound on her abdomen was, she couldn't beat the intense pain coming from her heart. Dmo Xian. He was really ruthless, really. He pierced her abdomen with one sword. Mercilessly pierced her abdomen. For another woman, a woman who didn't exist, pierced her abdomen. His expression was icy cold as he directly pulled out the sword. Blood splattered, and he only cared about protecting the bride in his arms, not being splashed by the blood. Are you all right? The bride seemed to be frightened as she nestled in his arms, shivering. No, I'm all right. She was obviously afraid, but stubbornly wanted to reassure Dmo Xian. It made one feel pity for her. Everyone's gazes towards Yi Qing Luo were filled with contempt and ridicule. It was as if he was mocking her for going against ethics and actually developing feelings for her master that she shouldn't have. He even tried to assassinate his teacher's wife. Long Yinzhan's heart seemed to be hurt by Yi Qing Luo's actions. His azure blue eyes were filled with disappointment. Looking at Yi Qing Luo lying in a pool of blood, he finally left the wedding hall without looking back. It was as though Yi Qing Luo was the only one left in the entire world. Lying on the ground, she felt her body gradually turning cold and hard. She had lost too much blood from the wound, and her consciousness was not very clear. Was he going to die? Killed by Dmo Xian himself? Yi Qing Luo wanted to laugh bitterly, but the corners of her lips no longer had the energy to smile. His heart had already been shattered into pieces. Don't you want to die? Suddenly, an enchanting voice rang out in his mind. Yi Qing Luo was stunned. She wanted to open her mouth, but was unable to spit out a single word. The voice continued to laugh. If you don't want to die, I can help you. I can also help you kill the woman who snatched Dmo Xian away and help you take revenge. Revenge? Kill that young lady Feng. Kill Dmo Xian. Take revenge for all the feelings that she had given up? That's right. Don't tell me you want to die like this and see Dmo Xian and that woman without any burden, sweet and happy together. That voice slowly enticed. No, she didn't want to. Chapter 10:13. Then, let me help you. The enchanting laughter was as melodious as a silver bell. But you still haven't told me who you are. Yiqing Luo thought silently in her heart. That laughter stopped. But a moment later, she saw a red figure walking out from the darkness. That was the color of a blazing fire. While walking, it was like a gorgeous flame dancing lightly. Slender white feet, stepping on the ground, slowly walking towards her. When she saw that person's face, Yiqing Luo was stunned. That face was her own. The woman in front of her looked exactly the same as her. The only difference was the enchanting look between her brows, which was peerlessly beautiful. And Yiqing Luo was full of grief, staring at her in a daze. You are. Weakly opening her lips, Yiqing Luo spat out 2 words. She slowly squatted down. Her slender jade-like hand gently caressed Yiqing Luo's bloodshot face, giving an enchanting smile. I am you. It's her. Don't tell me. She was already dead? Then the woman in front of her, who looked exactly like her, was a soul. No. Yiqing Luo enchantingly curved her lips, the hand caressing her cheeks, became increasingly gentle. I am the hatred in your heart. You want to take revenge on that heartless man? Take revenge on that woman, so? I appeared. Yiqing Luo stared at her in a daze. Take revenge on Dmo Xian. Take revenge on that woman who snatched Dmo Xian. She wanted revenge. She couldn't bear to see Dmo Xian and that woman live happily after her own death. Yiqing Luo's eyes was covered with intense hatred. Yes, I want revenge. I want to kill that woman. I will never let them be happy. Yiqing Luo gazed at her for a moment. The smile on her lips deepened into an enchanting arc. She raised her hand and gently placed it on Yiqing Luo's forehead. All right, then. Leave the rest to me. Kill that woman. Kill Dmo Xian. Let them never be happy forever. A warm light spread out in front of her forehead. Yiqing Luo's gaze, which was filled with hatred, faintly flickered. In her mind, Yiqing Luo's words vaguely echoed. Kill Dmo Xian. Kill Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly widened. She wanted to take revenge on them for being so heartless. But she couldn't bear to kill Dmo Xian. Even if Dmo Xian had betrayed her, she could not bear for him to die. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. This woman was still resisting? She couldn't help but increase the strength in her hands as her voice was bewitching, but it was totally not Yiqing Luo's unique voice. Don't be afraid. Leave everything to me. Let me slowly devour you. I will avenge you. Kill that heartless man. Kill that woman. Come, give your body to me. You can't. The eyes of the blood-covered woman lying on the ground suddenly lit up. She stared at Yiqing Luo and repeated word by word, no. That red figure which was covering Yiqing Luo was about to merge with her. In an instant, he was sent flying by a beam of red light. The figure fell heavily to the ground. Her beautiful face, which had an enchanting smile on it, twisted a little. You're not me. The real me will absolutely not want to kill Xian. Yiqing Luo didn't know why, but the wound on her abdomen gradually healed. The pain all over his body also dissipated. Chapter 10:14. Yiqing Luo didn't panic at all. Her lips curled into a playful and devilish smile. Is that so? I'm not you. That heartless man is not Dmo Xian. Then, who am I? Who is he? Yiqing Luo slowly stood up from the ground and slowly walked in front of Yiqing Luo. Her smile was charming, like the world's most bewitching poppy flower. Yiqing Luo just stared at her. There was no evasion, no fear or panic. I'm not interested to know who you are. I'm also not interested to know who the person who impersonated Xian is. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly. Her smile was the same as the woman in front of her. Enchanting, unparalleled. She raised her hand and locked Yiqing Luo's neck without hesitation. I only know you are going to disappear. Yiqing Luo smiled again, raised her neck high. Then let me disappear. If I disappear, even if you want to take revenge, there's no second chance. Revenge? I don't need it. Yiqing Luo sneered. Her 5 fingers suddenly exerted force. The woman in front of her, who looked exactly the same as her, instantly turned into ashes. Yiqing Luo looked at her empty hand. The feeling of strangling the woman's neck seemed to still remain in her palm. She sobered up. Here, it was the same as the old man song she met previously. It was an illusion deliberately to confuse her mind. Ha, 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 ha. Suddenly, a burst of horrifying laughter came from her surroundings. That voice wasn't the voice of the Yiqing Luo, who was strangled by her. What I'm most afraid of is losing the people I care about, losing Xian's love. There are many people who are worthy of Xian, but I am the only one. Even if the world is destroyed, I will absolutely not let Xian go. That voice was leisurely. Word by word, set out Yiqing Luo's thoughts. Yes, because of the gap between herself and Dmo Xian, Yiqing Luo had indeed thought about it, and even worried. She and Dmo Xian truly love each other. But the distance between them, destined that the road of love would not be so smooth. It wasn't that he hadn't thought about it. Perhaps standing beside Dmo Xian was another person who was worthy of him. Perhaps it would be better. However, every time this thought flashed through his mind, he would immediately remove it from his mind. She would never give up Dmo Xian to any woman. One day, she would have enough qualifications to make everyone acknowledge her, just like how those people in the dreamland acknowledged Miss Phone, acknowledging her existence. This illusion purposely captured the fleeting darkness in her heart. He weaved such an illusion. He wanted to force her to lose control of her emotions and devouring her body. Luckily, at the last moment, because of the illusion, she said that she wanted to kill Dmo Xian, which made her regain her consciousness. She closed her eyes and rested for a moment. The minute she opened her eyes, Yiqing Luo was stunned. This was the garden that Little Nine had brought her to before. Amidst the colorful flower beds, one could vaguely see the tall figure of a man who was doing something in the flower beds. Hearing movement behind him, the man turned around. Yiqing Luo only felt that everything in front of her had instantly lost its color. In her eyes, there was only that peerless man. Why was he here? Could it be another dreamland? Yiqing Luo's heart trembled as she stared at him vigilantly. Chapter 10:15. Gentle tone, affectionate expression, eyes filled with pampering. Every word that came out of his mouth seemed to be able to tug at her heart. The heartbroken heart in the illusion earlier had been healed. What's the matter? Do you want me to carry you over? Dmo Xian saw that she didn't move for a long time and gave a low laugh as he stood up and walked over to her. His purple robe billowed, and under the bouquet of flowers, he looked like a deity who had descended. Unparalleled handsomeness, incomparable. Yiqing Luo's feet seemed to be nailed to the ground, unable to move. Dmo Xian had already walked in front of her. His slender fingers with distinct joints swept past the hair on her forehead. Following that, he lifted her chin and gave a light kiss on her lips. His arm tightly wrapped around her slender waist. A thick masculine scent filled Yiqing Luo's nose. It almost made her faint. Her hand tightened. She grabbed the arm around her waist. Her voice was calm. "Let go of me." This was an illusion. She couldn't be affected by the illusion. But the next moment, the man's hand suddenly covered her head. He seemed to have placed something on her head. Yiqing Luo was stunned and was about to stretch out her hand to touch. Dmo Xian's large palm had already caught her little hand. His other hand flicked his sleeve. In the midst of the purple and red flower beds, a 2-meter-tall bronze mirror appeared. It clearly reflected the scene of the both of them hugging each other tightly. Dmo Xian's boiling hot chest covered Yiqing Luo's delicate back. His head pillowed on her slender shoulder. One hand, wrapped around her slender waist, pulled the distance between the both of them closer. Yiqing Luo looked at the bronze mirror. On her head, there was a circle of flower garland. That was a flower garland which was weaved by blossoms of bright red cherry blossoms. "Do you like it?" he asked in her ear. Yiqing Luo's face suddenly flushed red. The tight string in her brain, on seeing this flower garland, completely broke. Her heartbeat suddenly sped up. He personally weaved a flower garland. For her, personally weaved a flower garland. She blushed and nodded. "I like it." As long as you like it, it's worth the effort I put in to weave this garland. DMO Shin chuckled lowly as he raised his hand as if he was asking for praise. His slender fingers were covered with cuts and bruises of various sizes caused by the thin objects in his eyes. Yiqing Luo's long, curly lashes fluttered as she held his hand and gently kissed those marks. The body of the man who was sticking close to him suddenly stiffened. Following that, his palms covered her body. His hands moved over her body domineeringly and not gently. Yiqing Luo's face blushed slightly as she immediately grabbed his hand in embarrassment. However, the man lifted her chin with his other hand. He forced her to look at herself in the bronze mirror. In the mirror, the woman's face was blushing. Her eyes were curved like silk, as if she was sending out a tempting invitation. Her red lips parted slightly as she gasped softly. Her soft and delicate body squirmed restlessly. As for the man behind her, his expression was that of someone who had fallen into the valley of love. Shimmering peach blossom eyes, deep and serene. His heavy breathing was beside her ear. Lil Luo, Lil Luo. He called out her name. His voice was hoarse, revealing a sense of urgency. Yiqing Luo's face was flushed red. Her entire body was limp, without any energy. This softness gave the man behind her more chances. His large palm had already covered Yiqing Luo's chest. Chapter 10:16. Lil Luo, I can't take it anymore. The man leaned against her ear as he breathed heavily. His voice seemed to be filled with endless pain. Lil Luo, give birth to a child for me. Yiqing Luo's heart jolted as it started to race. What did you say? Give birth? DMO Xian wanted her to give birth to a child. Give birth to a child that belonged to the both of them? Lil Luo, I want to be with you forever. Let's build a home here. There's you, me, and the children at home. DMO Xian's hand had already unbuttoned her robe. His voice was getting hoarser. Yiqing Luo was still conscious as her little hand held on to him, stopping his hand. No, you can't. Her resistance made the man frown slightly. He paused in his action as he pressed Yiqing Luo's shoulder and turned her around to face him. His body suddenly moved forward and pressed Yiqing Luo against the bronze mirror. The bronze mirror's icy cold touch made Yiqing Luo's petite body tremble slightly. The man encircled her in between the bronze mirror and himself as he lowered his eyelids. Why can't I? She was so shy that she didn't dare to look at him. Even if they had met the last time, she was still unable to adapt to it. Don't want to be with me forever, don't want to build a home with me, and don't want to give birth to a child for me? He questioned her aggressively. No. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes in a fluster as her heart suddenly trembled. It's really not that I don't want to, but what? His body pressed down, and his scorching breath sprayed onto her face. It made her heart even more confused. Yiqing Luo blushed as she panted lightly as she shook her head. But there seems to be something missing. Build a family with him. Give birth to a baby that belonged to both of them. Be together forever. This kind of happiness, why wouldn't she be willing? Only there was a voice deep in her heart which seemed to be calling out for something. She felt that somewhere in her heart was empty, unable to be filled with happiness. She felt that something was still missing. The man frowned as his fingers locked onto her lower jaw as he lowered his head to kiss her. You can still be distracted now. Looks like. I haven't worked hard enough. The moment his kiss came down, Yiqing Luo didn't know why, but subconsciously turned her head away. His burning hot lips landed on her face. The man paused and let go of her chin. What's wrong? I don't know. Why do I always feel empty in my heart? What was that thing? It had been calling out to her from the bottom of her heart. World Mercenary Group. This is the world I promised to you. Qing Luo, it's all thanks to you. Because of your appearance, Devil Class has changed. Madam Qing Luo, I will definitely work hard to become stronger, work hard to become qualified to follow behind you. Sister, Kitty will also protect you, just like how you protect Kitty. Vice Commander. Familiar voices kept replaying in his mind. When those voices rang out, the owner of the voice would appear in his mind. Long Yinzhan, Yin Xiaoyi, Xiao Jin, the students of Devil Class, the mercenaries of the World Group. That's right. The empty space in her heart was the happiness of being with her brothers. What she wanted was not only to be together with Mo Xian forever, and her brothers. Not a single one of them could be left behind. Ah Xian. She raised her eyes and was about to speak out her thoughts. Chapter 10:17. The Mo Xian in front of her no longer had that gentle and pampering expression on his face. That peerlessly handsome face gradually twisted into a sinister expression. His fingers clasped Yi Qing Luo's wrist tightly. His fingertips were like sharp blades, as though they were about to pierce into her flesh. "You're not willing to stay here with me?" he asked with anger in his eyes. Her shimmering peach blossom eyes were filled with despair and heartache. Yi Qing Luo hissed in pain as she frowned and stared at her hand, which was clasped tightly. "Ah Xian, it's not that I'm not willing, but there shouldn't be only the two of us here. But I only want everything here, only me and you." The man retorted her sharply. "Ah Xian." Yi Qing Luo's slender brows knitted even tighter. Her charming eyes gazed deeply at this man whose expression was turning gloomier as she pursed her lips tightly. "Not right. Not right. You're not Mo Xian." Yi Qing Luo's eyes widened as she retreated a few steps. "This is an illusion, right?" He was not Mo Xian. She should still be in the illusion created by the gates of hell. No wonder. She instinctively developed an indescribable resistance towards this Mo Xian. She was obviously touched by everything he had done for her, but she was not willing to let him touch her. Mo Xian, in front of her, had a sinister expression as it slowly dispersed. His lips curled as his serene, deep eyes locked onto her. "I'm an illusion? Lil Luo, you can't even recognize your own man?" "My man, of course I can recognize him." At this moment, Yi Qing Luo's face had already faded from the blush and shyness, as her charming eyes were as clear as water, calm and indifferent. "So, you're not him." Mo Xian went silent. He stared at Yi Qing Luo without blinking, as his eyes were gloomy and unclear. His thick, long eyelashes trembled slightly, as his sleeves moved slightly and a dagger appeared in his hand. Yi Qing Luo was stunned as she took a step back vigilantly, but she saw Mo Xian passing the dagger to her, as his thin lips rose slightly. "Since you think I'm an illusion, then, take the dagger and stab me." After that, he withdrew his hand, placed it on his heart, and tapped it. Yi Qing Luo's hand that was holding the dagger stiffened as her eyes widened. "What do you mean? Since you're so sure that I'm an illusion, killing me is a piece of cake, isn't it?" The man smiled faintly. There were no ripples in his eyes. "If I kill you, will I be able to return to reality?" Yi Qing Luo pursed her pink lips tightly. The hand holding the dagger tightened. She was sure that this was an illusion. According to the books, if one wanted to enter the gates of hell, they had to remove the 3 bugs in their body, which were greed, anger, and obsession. In that case, the test of the gates of hell was probably a test of passing through these 3 temptations and exterminating these 3 insects. It could be considered as having passed through the gates of hell. The peak of Old Man Song's profound strength was the first stage's greed. When Mo Xian married another woman, he drew out the resentment in her heart, and that was the second stage of anger. Mo Xian's gentle pampering, wishing to be with her for the rest of his life, just the 2 of them and their child. This was the third stage's infatuation. As long as he killed this illusion, he would be able to break the illusion of the 3rd stage. The 3 bugs would definitely be removed from her body. She took a deep breath as her charming eyes fixated on the man in front of her. She raised the dagger and tentatively leaned it against his chest. The man didn't have the slightest hesitation or intention to avoid it. On the contrary, he spread out his hands, displaying a look of allowing her to ravage him. Yi Qing Luo gritted her teeth. This was just an illusion. The real Mo Xian was still waiting for her outside the illusion. This place, after all, was not reality. Chapter 10:18. The dagger stopped when it was just a finger's width away from Mo Xian's heart. Yi Qing Luo's fingers, which were holding the dagger, had turned white. She couldn't do it. Facing Mo Xian's face, even if she knew. He was just an illusion, a non-existent illusion. But she still couldn't do it. The dagger, which was pressed against his heart, just couldn't pierce through. He had the same face as Mo Xian. He had the same temperament as Mo Xian. He had the same tenderness and pampering as Mo Xian. Facing such a man who was no different from Mo Xian, her heart couldn't do it. At this moment, Yi Qing Luo finally understood a long time ago when she was still the patriarch of the hidden family. The elders nagged at her daily. She must remember to cut off the roots of love. Remember, she must not fall in love with anyone. Once she fell in love, there would be a weakness. Once there was a weakness, it would be easy to be controlled by others. Just like now, Yi Qing Luo was unable to do anything to Mo Xian, even if she knew that it was just an illusion. This was probably a common problem for every woman. In terms of feelings, they would never be able to be decisive. Can't do it. The man's lips curled slightly as he lowered his eyelids, quietly staring at the anxious young lady in front of him. Unable to do anything to me. That is enough to prove that you can't be sure that I'm an illusion. You just don't want to stay here with me. Your heart is not entirely on me. You are unwilling to build a family that belongs to us, so why not give birth to a child that belongs to us? Yi Qing Luo, you don't love me at all. His words were calm, without any ripples, as though he was stating a fact. Yi Qing Luo's charming eyes were silent as she looked at him quietly. What you said is very right, but there's one point you're wrong. He raised his brows, waiting for her words. My heart is not on you at all. Yi Qing Luo said each word clearly, because you're not Mo Xian. She closed her eyes, her slender fingers, holding a red feather fan, rolled up a hurricane, directly rolling the man in front of her up. Her fingertips flicked and flung hard. The purple robe turned into an afterimage in the sky and disappeared. At the same time, the surrounding scenery gradually dispersed. What replaced it was no longer a vast expanse of white fog. Instead, it was a dark underground palace. He was still standing in front of Hell's Gate. Around her, over 1,000 students turned back into terracotta soldiers, standing stiffly on the spot. The expression on his face was painful and unbearable. Every few breaths, a student with a pained expression would turn into a streak of white light and disappear into the crowd. These people must have been defeated by the 3 trials created by the gates of hell. Unable to control his emotions, he was eliminated from the heavenly pagoda. Sister. Kitty Lee's crisp voice was heard from behind as she hooked onto Yi Qing Luo's arm. Sister has left the mirage so quickly? Yi Qing Luo nodded. You're also that fast. Kitty is a beastman's cat beast. I don't have any grudges or obsessions. Kitty Lee blinked her lively eyes. After I was sent into the illusion, Big Sister appeared in the illusion. Big Sister said that she wanted to be with Kitty Lee forever, and she wanted to sign a blood contract with Kitty Lee. However, as a cat of the orc race, Kitty is extremely sensitive to your scent. Although the Big Sister in the illusory realm looks exactly the same, she smells different. Her illusory realm was all about Yi Qing Luo. Because of this, Kitty Lee immediately exposed everything and returned to reality. But the other students were still trapped in the illusion, unable to walk out. Especially, Xiao Jin's expression was the ugliest. Chapter 1019. Sister, if Xiao Jin goes on like this, will he not be able to take it? Kitty Lee stared at Xiao Jin worriedly. The person who was trapped in the illusion couldn't be touched or suddenly awakened. If the person who was trapped in the illusion was startled, there was a possibility that the person's soul would be shattered into pieces. Yi Qing Luo stared at Xiao Jin, and after some time, she gave a faint smile. What do you think? Goldie will see in the illusion. Kitty Lee blinked her big round eyes, and without thinking, she directly replied, Sister Xiao Yi, cat beasts were more sensitive to human emotions than ordinary people. Yi Qing Luo smiled. Looks like, after this blockhead lad comes out from the illusion, He should understand his own heart. Hmm. Kitty Lee blinked her eyes in puzzlement. Xiao Jin was currently in a peach orchard forest. In the middle of the peach orchard forest, there was a small wooden house which wasn't considered spacious. It was surrounded by white fences, and there were a few adorable magical beasts wandering around. Beside the well in front of the wooden house, a petite figure had her head lowered as she washed the clothes in her hand seriously. His heart skipped a beat. There seemed to be a strange feeling that was pulling him toward that figure. But just as he neared the fences, Xiao Jin shut his eyes suddenly. No, not right. This was also an illusion. After consecutively passing through 2 rounds of illusion, Xiao Jin had already guessed that this was the 3 bugs test at the gates of hell. Although he almost died in the illusion for the first 2 rounds, but at least he managed to walk out of it. As long as he passed through the 3rd round, he would be able to pass. Xiao Jin clenched his fists tightly and immediately opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with determination. But the figure who was washing the clothes with her head lowered seemed to have sensed someone approaching as she slowly raised her head. Ah, Jin. That person raised her head, and when she saw Xiao Jin, her beautiful eyes were filled with a gentle smile. Xiao Jin was rooted to the original spot. Why was she here? Why? In his illusion, Yin Xiao Yi would appear. That's right. The person in front of him who was dressed in a simple yet elegant blue long dress, with her sleeves rolled up to reveal her fair arms, was Yin Xiao Yi. Yin Xiao Yi's eyes were filled with smiles as she wiped her wet hands on her clothes. Then she slowly walked to his side and put her arms around his waist. Ah, Jin, welcome home. Xiao Jin stood rooted to the ground. His eyes were originally filled with determination, but when he saw Yin Xiao Yi, it had already crumbled. She could actually be so gentle. She treated him so gently. Xiao Jin wanted to regain his rationality, trying hard to tell himself that this was an illusion. However, Yin Xiaoyi's lips had already taken the initiative to kiss his lips. She grabbed his large palm and slowly placed it on her soft body. Ah, Jin, I miss you so much. His gentle voice was extremely soft. It seemed to be bewitching Xiao Jin, and Xiao Jin was indeed bewitched. She smiled at him. The smile was gentle and affectionate. It was as if he was the only one in her eyes. She had never smiled at him like this before. He hadn't spoken to Yin Xiao Yi for half a month, nor had he seen Yin Xiao Yi. Now he saw Yin Xiao Yi's gentleness and deep love. This caused Xiao Jin's heart to gradually sink. Ah, Jin, why aren't you saying anything? Yin Xiao Yi slowly raised her head and kissed his Adam's apple. Her beautiful eyes were filled with a trace of moisture. I want you to touch me. Xiao Jin's body tensed up. Under the woman's deliberate teasing, his breathing was uncontrollably messed up. Chapter 10:20. Child. Xiao Jin held her shoulders and pulled the distance between them. Are you talking about a child? The woman in his arms was blushing. Her eyes were seductive like a fox. Xiao Jin's heart was beating violently. He tightened his grip on her shoulders. It showed his forbearance at this moment. Although Xiao Jin had never had deep contact with any woman since he was young, but he understood that this feeling was a man's yearning. Every man would know what to do next without a teacher. Yes, our child. She winked at him coquettishly, her body limp in his arms, and scattered kisses fell on his body. Then what about him? Xiao Jin's throat moved as he forced himself to ask. Yes, child. How could he and Yin Xiao Yi have a child? This must be an illusion. He could not fall into an illusion. Are you deliberately teasing me? The woman raised her fist and lightly landed on his chest. The woman's coquettish voice sounded in his arms. Didn't you say that you would give me another child and give me a surprise today? That's why I sent him away. Her voice became softer and softer. In the end, she buried herself in his arms shyly. Xiao Jin's breathing quickened. His dark eyes gazed deeply at the woman in his arms. Her little face was blushing like an innocent girl, captivating. Her beautiful eyes were hazy, and her coquettish appearance made one infatuated. This was not an illusion. How could this be an illusion? He had Yin Xiao Yi, a child that belonged to them, their home. How could it be an illusion? This was the place that truly belonged to him. Ah, Jin, where's the surprise? The woman blushed and looked up at him. Xiao Jin's eyes gradually deepened. He stretched out his long arms and held her waist in his arms. Crossing the fence, he walked directly into the wooden hut and pressed her down on the bed. His low voice was filled with yearning. "Surprise! I'll give it to you now." The woman under him smiled coquettishly, her arms circling his neck, and offered her red lips. Xiao Jin bent down and was about to kiss her. In his mind, a furious voice suddenly resounded. "Xiao Jin, since you liked Tao Tao so much, why don't you look for her? Why do you have to harass me? I don't want to see you. I hate you. Xiao Jin, I hate you. Xiao Jin, I hate you." Xiao Jin's chest felt stifled, his expression somewhat absent-minded. The woman under him arched her body slightly and moved closer to him. "Jin, what's wrong? You." Xiao Jin's brows knitted tightly as he clutched his chest with one hand. What was going on? That voice just now, wasn't that Yin Xiaoyi's voice? She said, "Hate him?" But the woman beneath him called him Jin in the same gentle voice. Why does my heart feel so painful and uncomfortable? Jin, don't think about it. Don't think about it anymore. In your heart, in your eyes, just think about me. Think about me. The woman beneath him seemed to have sensed his inattention. Her arched body pressed against Xiao Jin's body. She wrapped her arms around Xiao Jin's neck, her warm kisses teasing his senses without warning. It was just at this time Xiao Jin didn't have the feeling of being bewitched like before. He also didn't have the feeling of sinking into it. The stifled feeling in his chest made him unable to care about the woman's teasing. Reaching out, he pushed the woman away and flipped himself off the bed. Jin, she called out in a panic, reaching out, wanting to grab Xiao Jin. Chapter 10:21. He remembered that he secretly hugged the unconscious Yin Xiaoyi. He remembered that he forcefully kissed Yin Xiaoyi. He remembered that Yin Xiaoyi intentionally avoided him, not willing to see him again. He remembered that Yin Xiaoyi said, hated him. This Yin Xiaoyi wasn't Yin Xiaoyi at all. Everything here was an illusion. Jin Zi. Yi Qing Luo saw Xiao Jin sweating profusely and his eyelids twitching. He should have passed the third round. When she called out softly, Xiao Jin suddenly opened his eyes. His pupils were filled with astonishment and shock. He panted heavily as he sat down heavily on the ground. Xiao Jin, what did you meet in the illusion? Why do you look so terrible? Kitty Lee squatted on the ground, looking at him curiously. Xiao Jin stared at Kitty Lee, still panting heavily. His gaze was focused for some time before it gathered. I didn't meet anything. He shifted his gaze, shaking his head. Yi Qing Luo stared at him meaningfully for some time, as she more or less understood something. Greed, anger, and obsession. These 3 rounds, the first 2 rounds, as long as one's willpower was firm, it was actually very easy to pass through. But the third round, obsession. No one could resist this round. That was to present the most desired and desired thing in human nature, right in front of them. In the third round, without any accidents, they would all sink into it. What was the obsession in Xiao Jin's heart? What was it? Probably. It was no different from hers. Just at this moment, Long Yunzhan, who was standing beside her, suddenly gave a dull moan. Suddenly, he opened his azure blue eyes. Following that, like Xiao Jin, he fell onto the ground unsteadily, as his face turned pale as he broke out in cold sweat. Ajan. Yi Qing Luo immediately went up to support Long Yunzhan, as she was about to take out her scroll to wipe the cold sweat off his forehead. Suddenly, his large palm slapped her hand away. She was stunned. This slap, although it wasn't heavy, but it was still a little painful. She frowned. Ajan, what's the matter? Long Yunzhan suddenly regained his senses as his azure blue eyes wavered, as he directly snatched the handkerchief from her hand. Nothing. I just haven't regained my senses. Don't bother about me. He carelessly wiped the sweat off his forehead as he turned around. Perhaps he had encountered something that he found hard to talk about in the illusion. Yi Qing Luo didn't interrogate further as she stood up and gazed at the remaining few devil class students. After about an hour, the students of Devil class had finally overcome their 3 views and successfully walked out of the illusion. Yiqing Luo gave them another instant's worth of time to adjust their emotions. After that, the 10 of them walked past the other students who were still trapped in the illusion and entered the gates of hell. This time, there were no obstructions. After stepping into Hell's Gate, everything in front of him didn't immediately transform into another space like when he first entered Hell's Gate. In front of him was still the gloomy underground palace. An infinitely long flight of stairs spiraled downwards. As far as the eye could see, it was impossible to see the bottom. And the most frightening thing was, in this huge underground palace, there was only this bottomless staircase floating in the air. There were no fences around, no footholds except stairs. What is this? Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes vigilantly and said with a dignified expression, "It seems that after passing through 2 levels, there is still no way to leave the heavenly pagoda." This ability assessment, just how many levels were there? Yiqing Luo had an especially strange feeling. This totally didn't seem to be an assessment related to one's own ability. On the contrary, it seemed to be testing one's soul. Chapter 1022. Yiqing Luo's mind instantly cleared up. The King of Darkness from the Dark Forces, didn't he want the cultivator's soul? The director wanted to bring forward the interclass competition to hold the ability assessment. In actual fact, it was to test the student's soul. A clean, without any distracting thoughts, was the most delicious soul. Yiqing Luo finally understood the reason why the director insisted on holding the ability assessment. If this assessment was for the soul which the King of Darkness wanted, that meant that the students who passed the ability assessment had a high possibility of falling into the hands of the King of Darkness. This assessment, their devil class, must definitely pass. There was a possibility that this was a way to get close to the King of Darkness. Everyone be careful, this round is not simple. The first 2 rounds were all about taking one's life or crushing one's soul from the depths of one's heart. This round was absolutely not simple. An eye Ruo Pan surveyed the surroundings and looked at the half-open gates of hell, muttering to himself for a moment, "Madam Qing Luo, this is the inside of the gates of hell," which means there's a possibility that this is the stairway to the 18 levels of hell. 18 levels of hell? The other students repeated the sentence in disbelief, their eyes filled with astonishment. 18 levels of hell is not a place for dead people to go, wee. Isn't the gates of hell also a place for dead people to enter? Tong Ziqing's expression was still cold. 18 levels of hell it is. Let's charge through it first. While speaking, her gaze unknowingly looked towards Long Yinzhan. Long Yinzhan seemed as though he didn't notice it as he replied indifferently, "No matter if it's a place for dead people or not. Since we're already here, if we want to pass the test and take part in the interclass competition, then we must go." When the other students heard that, they kept away their fearful expressions and immediately stood up straight. "Yes, class monitor." Yiqing Luo looked at the spiraling downwards, the bottomless stairway, and looked down. All she saw was a patch of strange green candlelight. Other than the stairway, she couldn't see anything else. Yiqing Luo's vigilance didn't dissipate because of this. She took the lead and stepped on the stairway first as she walked down carefully. After walking for 10 over steps, she didn't discover anything strange, nor did she sense any danger. Go down slowly and be prepared to use your profound jade heart to maintain your body's lightness. Yiqing Luo instructed. The few of them responded and took turns to step on the stairway. They walked extremely slowly, and in a short while, they had already passed through more than 100 floors. However, the surroundings were still empty. Only the green candlelight floated along the stairs, illuminating them. Right at this moment, they heard a commotion coming from the top of the stairs, which was also the end of Hell's Gate. From the sound of it, there were at least 20 to 30 people. They had successfully walked out of the illusion. Yiqing Luo frowned as she stopped in her tracks and looked up. A group of students swarmed in. The first person to stand beside the stairs and look down at them was actually Shangwan Liuli, that big-breasted, brainless woman who was controlled by the dark forces. He actually passed the test of the three separations? Could it be that he had borrowed the power of the mysterious Inshi? How dare you cheat in the heavenly pagoda? Aren't you afraid of being discovered by the teacher of justice? Chapter 1023. Shangwan Liuli's voice attracted quite a number of students' attention. They were shocked that after walking into the gates of hell, they didn't fall into any other space or illusion. Suddenly hearing Shangwan Liuli's words, they subconsciously rushed over. Then he saw the spiral staircase descending. Whereas Yi, Qing Luo, and the rest had already walked along the staircase for a long distance. How could this bunch of waste pass the 3 rounds of illusion? High profound class students were filled with anger. They almost fell into the illusion, and if it wasn't for the fact that they found the loophole in the illusion at the last minute to regain their consciousness, they wouldn't be able to walk out of the illusion. How would these waste have the ability to walk out of the illusion? They even snatched the chance to head towards the 3rd space. It must be as what Shangwan Liuli said. That illusion was Yi Qing Luo's doing. Yi Qing Luo wanted to take the opportunity to pass the ability assessment for the 10 of them in her class. Specially created an illusion for them. Otherwise, how would they have the chance to snatch the chance? That bunch of waste actually treated them as fools to make a fool out of them. Yi Qing Luo, don't even think of escaping. Devil class, you stop right there. I'm going to kill you. Treacherous villains. A bunch of villains who only know how to play dirty tricks. Those high-profound class and intermediate profound class students had intense hatred in their eyes. One by one, they followed the staircase and chased after Yi Qing Luo and the rest. That bunch of people must be sick. Xiao Jin stared at those 20 over people as they walked up the staircase in unison. One Shangwan Liuli, with just a few simple words, was able to lead them by the nose so easily. These people. Are they really the so-called elite students? The other students shook their heads, but they couldn't conceal their contempt towards these so-called high-profound class, intermediate profound class students. It was said that Heavenly Academy was the best academy in Nirvana realm. All the students were extremely talented, which made one envious. Especially for the high profound class, those were the elite students among the geniuses. But the students of the devil class were deeply suspicious. They felt that the intelligence of the high profound class was so low that they couldn't bear to ridicule them. There's a problem here. Yi Qing Luo calmly opened her mouth as her eyes squinted slightly. Her fingers gently brushed past the green candlelight floating in the air. The stairway to the 18 levels of hell is also one of the tests of the mysterious pagoda. Yi Qing Luo had been paying attention to the surrounding candlelight for a long time. The faint green candlelight was strange and cold. Even though there was no wind, it swayed the surrounding shadows. What made Yi Qing Luo felt strange was when the candlelight flickered, it gave her an extremely uncomfortable feeling. The stairway to the 18 levels of hell is almost the same as the first trial of the upper profound pagoda, the golden desert. Yi Qing Luo retracted her hand as she explained, "These candlelight give off a scent that humans are unable to smell, but it can cause a huge impact on humans. This smell can release the darkest and evilest thoughts in a human's heart and affect their emotions." That was to say, the students who had barged into the gates of hell had all been infected by the evil thoughts of the green candlelight gas. That was why he became easily angered, dark, and ruthless. Big sister's right. Kitty smelled it. Kitty Lee raised her paw. The minute I entered, Kitty smelled a strange smell. Kitty thought it was the Inshi from the gates of hell, so I didn't think too much about it. Then why are we fine? Tong Ziqing frowned as she asked. Chapter 1024. Just as the 10 students from the devil class were about to set off towards the Shangxian Plaza. It was unknown how God Pirate avoided the various devices around the college and sneaked into the devil class. He wore a long robe that shone with golden ingots. The jades in his hair trembled as he moved. Coincidentally, he was holding a pot of medicinal soup in his hand, which emitted a medicinal fragrance. This made Yi Qing Luo speechless and unable to vent. Holy Pirate sneaked into the college just to give them a pot of medicine. They said that this pot of medicinal soup would be helpful for their strength test today. Before the 10 of them set off, each of them took a sip. And Irual Pan's eyes lit up. In other words, the medicinal soup that God Pirate gave us is to stabilize our minds and isolate the energy and miasma from the gates of hell and the 18 levels of hell. No wonder they could always wake up at the most critical moment in the illusion. It was likely that Holy Thief's medicinal soup had taken effect. Yiqing Luo nodded her head. Indeed so. At that time, I smelled the ingredients of the medicinal soup, but I didn't think too much about it. Now that I see these green candlelight, I understand that the medicinal soup is resisting against Qi and miasma. That pot of medicinal soup should not have been prepared by God Pirate. To be able to know the contents of the Heavenly Pagoda's test and prepare the medicinal soup beforehand. He was also acquainted with God Thief, and he could use God Thief's hand to deliver it to them. Who could it be? In his mind, suddenly flashed that scene in the World Group's old residence. In Holy Pirate's room, he saw the scene between Holy Pirate and Ghost Doctor. This medicinal soup was brewed by the Ghost Doctor, right? What was the relationship between the Ghost Doctor and God Thief? She didn't have time to think about it. Shangguan Liuli's voice was already nearing. Yiqing Luo, don't even think about running. You almost caused us to die in the illusion, and you still want to escape? Today, I must dismember your corpse into 10,000 pieces. Shangguan Liuli walked very quickly. He didn't seem to care about the fact that there were no fences on either side of the stairs. Furthermore, the stairs were full of twists and turns. If he wasn't careful, he might miss the stairs and fall into the bottomless abyss. In just a short moment, he had already caught up to Yiqing Luo and the others. Behind him, those students from a high profound class were moving step by step. His heroic spirit soared to the sky, and the imposing manner of seeking revenge on Yiqing Luo had been greatly diminished by this terrifying flight of stairs. Shangguan Liuli was alone, yet she dared to charge at them. It should be said that she was brave. Or should it be said that he could do whatever he wanted just by relying on the mysterious Qi? Yiqing Luo gave a faint laugh as she ignored Shangguan Liuli's hooting. You guys leave, don't bother about her. For the ability assessment, Yiqing Luo didn't intend to let Devil Class's students take action. After all, not only the students in the Heaven Pagoda who were still taking the test would know the secret of the Devil Class in advance. The general situation in the pagoda would also be narrated by one of the teachers in charge of the Heaven Pagoda. There was no point in knowing everything now. Long Yunjian and the others nodded slightly and continued forward slowly. He did not lose his rhythm because of the students' pursuit. No matter what, safety was the most important. Yiqing Luo stood on the spot, waiting for Shangguan Liuli to approach. Shangguan Liuli was like a crazy woman as she directly dashed in front of Yiqing Luo and stretched out her hand to push her. Yiqing Luo, if you have the ability, then make a move on me. I'm warning you. This is the Heaven Pagoda, and if you dare to make a move on me, you will be disqualified from the assessment. Shangguan Liuli was delighted. This was the consequence of Yiqing Luo's arrogance. She actually dared to bring only 9 students into the assessment. Once Yiqing Luo's qualification was disqualified, it would be the same as Devil Class, with no chance to take part in the interclass competition. Chapter 1025. Yiqing Luo only moved sideways slightly to avoid Shangguan Liuli's palm strike. Shangguan Liuli pushed empty air and almost lost her footing as her entire body fell forward. This fall made Shangguan Liuli shriek in terror. She stood at the side of the staircase as she bent down to look below. The endless staircase, she had no idea how deep or how high it was below. A jade pendant fell down from her waist. For some time, there was no sound of the jade pendant hitting the ground. Shangguan Liuli's face turned pale. Those students who carefully stepped on the staircase also shuddered. This staircase, how deep was it? For such a long time, there was no sound of the jade pendant falling onto the ground. If it fell, it was possible that she would be smashed into smithereens. Shangguan Liuli was so frightened that her hands turned into a spiral shape as she kept moving backwards. Following that, Her body fell backwards as her buttocks fell heavily onto the staircase. Shangwan Liuli still had a lingering fear as she touched her chest, as she trembled in fear. When her gaze landed on Yiqing Luo, who was standing by the side watching the show with her arms crossed, Shangwan Liuli's petite body shuddered as the fearful expression on her face was replaced by sullen anger. Yiqing Luo, are you doing this on purpose? You intentionally want me to fall down. You want to kill me. There was a hole in this lady's brain. Yiqing Luo clicked her tongue as she glanced at her with a smile, yet not a smile. According to what you said, if I push you, you can't avoid it. If you avoid it, then you're trying to kill me? Her words had just ended as her figure speedily approached. Her palm moved and pushed towards Shangwan Liuli. Yiqing Luo, how dare you? Shangwan Liuli was so scared that her face turned pale as she scrambled up the stairs. If you dare to push me, you will be disqualified from the assessment. See, didn't you also avoid it? You're trying to make me fall down on purpose, intentionally trying to kill me? Yiqing Luo spread out her hands as she used Shangwan Liuli's original words to counter. It said that a woman's heart is the most vicious. Student Shangwan is really vicious. Shangwan Liuli was so angry that her face turned pale. Before he could finish his words, he was interrupted by Yiqing Luo. Moreover, if I push you down, I'll be disqualified from the assessment. Earlier when I dodged, didn't I help you retain your assessment rights? Come to think of it, you should thank me. Ha! Devil Class's 9 people who had been paying close attention to their situation, upon hearing Yiqing Luo's shameless words which made Shangwan Liuli unable to rebuke, couldn't help but burst out laughing. Student Shangwan, what Qing Luo said is right. You should thank Qing Luo. Xiao Ji nodded in agreement. Not only do you have to thank me, you have to apologize as well, Tong Ziqing said coldly. Every word she said sounded like a command. Apologize? Oh, that's right. Student Shangwan relied on the fact that he is a student of the intermediate profound class and wanted to harm our devil class students. If this matter were to spread to the other students or the academy's ears, and I Rupin covered her mouth under the veil and giggled. Intermediate profound class students attempted to harm devil class students during the academy's assessment and even threatened devil class students. Isn't this gimmick explosive enough? The successive words caused the faces of the 20 over students to turn green and white. Shangwan Liuli's expression was the ugliest. This bunch of trash actually had such a sharp tongue. In front of them, elite students, they even dared to talk back. Did they think that with Yiqing Luo as their backing, they could do anything? Chapter 10:26. Yiqing Luo stood there calmly with her arms crossed over her chest, as though she totally didn't care about Shangwan Liuli's provocation. The hatred in Shangwan Liuli's eyes grew thicker as a black chi swam around in her eyes. Yiqing Luo, don't be too complacent. Even if I'm disqualified, my intermediate profound class too. If 10 of us can walk out of the heavenly pagoda, then we can still take part in the inter-class competition. But once you're disqualified, your devil class will definitely lose. Shangwan Liuli laughed out loud. She only had one aim now. That was to make Yiqing Luo disqualified from the assessment. To make devil class unable to take part in the inter-class competition. Her gaze turned cold as her expression suddenly turned severe. Out of nowhere, he took out a long sword. Leaping up, he went past Yiqing Luo and headed straight towards those trash in devil class, charging straight towards them. Want to touch my people? Yiqing Luo scoffed lightly as her 5 fingers opened up and a palm chi turned into a huge dragon. The rumbling chi brought along a strong hurricane. Shangwan Liuli's figure swayed, and under the strong hurricane, she couldn't maintain her figure at all. She recalled the scene of the jade pendant falling down the stairs without any sound. Shangwan Liuli didn't dare to be presumptuous. She could only give up on killing the bunch of trash in devil class and stabilize herself first. She had just stood still. Suddenly, a deafening roar was heard from the bottom of the stairs, from far to near. But in the blink of an eye, a huge shadow rushed in front of everyone. That shadow landed heavily on the stairs beside Shangwan Lioli. The huge figure separated Yiqing Luo and the other 9 students. Boom! A loud sound was heard, and the rumbling air waves shook the stairs. Those students who had just walked up 10 over steps immediately wailed like ghosts as their legs turned soft on the stairs, not daring to walk any further. Shangwan Lioli was also shocked by this shock as she knelt down on the ground. She could clearly feel a powerful force behind her, right in front of her, but she didn't dare to turn back. What on earth would rush up from the bottom of the stairs? Yiqing Luo could see it clearly. She squinted her eyes as she stared calmly at that lump of thing behind Shangwan Lioli. It should be called a thing. It was a lump that looked like a lump of meat. On top of the meat, there were even scorching bubbles as if the meat was boiling. It was so massive that it occupied 5 to 6 flights of stairs. It looked extremely disgusting and terrifying. What is that? So disgusting. My God, how did this meatball jump up from the bottom of the stairs? Meatball? Shangwan Lioli's eyes widened in fear. She shivered and slowly turned her head. Behind her, there was a flight of stairs that was only a step away from her. It really was a ball of bubbling meat. Her eyes were filled with terror, and she was about to break into a run. And I suddenly appeared on the fleshy meatball. Those eyes were the size of Shangwan Lioli. A monster! Monster! Shangwan Lioli's legs went soft, and she immediately turned around and ran back. However, there was no room for her to lift her leg. His eyes darted around for a moment. Soon after, the meatball moved and stuck itself to Shangwan Lioli's body. Ah, it's disgusting. Scram! Scram! Shangwan Lioli struggled to break free from that meatball. But the meatball seemed to be stuck to her body. When she pushed it away, a thin layer of meat membrane appeared in the middle and immediately adhered tightly to Shangwan Lioli's body. Chapter 10:27. Immediately following that, a shocking scene happened. That lump of meat had already stuck Shangwan Lioli's entire chest together. That lump of meat bubbled and slowly spread out like a meat paste. That meat paste, bit by bit, merged Shangwan Lioli's body into that lump of meat. That bunch of students gave off a terrified scream. What was this? What was this thing? It actually swallowed a person. A person was merged alive into the lump of meat. They could clearly see Shangwan Lioli's shrill cries for help as her hands struggled. But her body was still being invaded by that lump of meat, inch by inch. Finally, the entire head entered the scene of the lump of meat. Simply disgusting. Horrifying. Making one's hair stand on end. Monster. Monster. Those 10 over students who had already walked down the stairs were already scrambling and running back. The staircase was originally not wide. This crowd of people was rushing back. Under the continuous pushing and shoving, there were a few students who couldn't stand properly as they directly fell down from the staircase. Only to hear those few students' shrill cries. That sound persisted for a long period of time and finally disappeared. But no one heard the sound of a heavy object landing on the ground. Only that miserable cry was still lingering in everyone's ears. Those students were so frightened that their faces turned pale as they trembled all over. All of them stood stiffly on the spot. No one dared to move recklessly. If this crowd continued, perhaps the next one to fall down would be them. They stared in terror at that lump of meat which had completely merged into Shangwan Lioli's body as their hearts were filled with terror. Following that lump of meat's target must be Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo stood by the side, the nearest to the lump of meat. Devil Class's 9 people also thought so. Long Yunjian had already started walking as he rushed towards Yiqing Luo's direction. But he was stopped by Yiqing Luo's shout, "All of you continue." Long Yunjian's footsteps halted. Under the black veil, Yiqing Luo couldn't see his expression. But she knew Long Yunjian definitely didn't approve of her acting tough alone. No matter, leave it to me. Yiqing Luo's gaze was resolute as she said every word. The 9 of them could not take action here. She alone was enough to deal with this meatball. Long Yunjian stood there quietly, his figure tall and motionless. After some time, Xiao Jin walked up and tugged Long Yunjian's arm, pulling him back, since Qing Luo said to hand it over to her. Then we shall believe her. Long Yunjian's entire body tensed up, and under Xiao Jin's pushing, he returned to the devil class students. The group of 9 continued to walk down the stairs, looking back 3 times with every step. The lump of meat moved slowly. Soon after, a huge eye appeared on the bubbling ball of meat once again. The eyeball was spinning. His gaze fell onto Yiqing Luo without blinking. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes slightly as she stared vigilantly at the lump of meat. After swallowing Shangwan Lioli, the meatball clearly tasted the sweetness of a human. His big, wide eyes were filled with a greedy look. Following that, the meat lump slowly moved towards Yiqing Luo bit by bit. Just then, the glower flame fan in Yiqing Luo's hand rotated in her palm. Soon after, it turned into a spiral, and like a sharp blade, it spun towards the lump of meat. The red feather fan, profound chi, surged into the sky. When it got close to the lump of meat, a bewitching red glow suddenly rose. Like a ball of flame, in an instant, it streaked past that lump of meat. The lump of meat instantly split into pieces as minced meat splattered. Chapter 1028. She cut that lump of meat into pieces. Student Yi is indeed a strong one, so powerful. She actually did it so easily. Those students' suspenseful hearts finally calmed down. Yiqing Luo's expression didn't relax at all. Her slender brows creased slightly as her charming eyes stared intently at that lump of meat that was split into pieces. Somehow, she felt that things wouldn't end so easily. Indeed, just as everyone heaved a sigh of relief, suddenly, someone from the high profound class screamed in horror. Something's wrong. Look, hiss. Another strange sound was heard. The minced meat on the ground gathered bit by bit and reassembled into a lump of meat. That huge I stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. What kind of monster is this? It can actually regenerate itself. Xie Yin squatted by the side of the stairs as he stared at that lump of meat and then looked at the young lady whose back was facing him. His brows knitted even tighter. This monster could actually regenerate itself after being split into pieces. Yiqing Luo Shi still had a way to deal with it. Xie Yin squinted his eyes as the scene of Yi Feng Ru returning to the god-slaying mercenary group appeared in his mind, covered in injuries. Not only Yi Feng Ru, their group leader Nangong Firen and the others were all covered in injuries. And, other than them, the other 20 over mercenaries were all buried in the Ling King's tomb. The one who saved them. It was Yiqing Luo. He pursed his lips meaningfully. He wanted to see what remarkable ability Yiqing Luo had to make such a powerful group leader fall for her. The lump of meat, which had reassembled itself into a lump of meat, was filled with anger. The steaming, bubbling ball of meat rolled a few times. Suddenly, from the softness, 2 long meaty hands grew out, like a human's arm. An arm formed from a lump of meat. It grabbed towards Yiqing Luo's direction. The lump of meat's speed was extremely fast, but in a blink of an eye, that 2 meaty arms had already stretched out in front of Yiqing Luo. Its 5 fingers stretched out and was about to grab Yiqing Luo's shoulder. The meaty arms were still bubbling. There wasn't any fragrance from boiling meat, but only a nauseating stench. Yiqing Luo frowned as she swiftly retreated a few steps to avoid those 2 meaty arms. The devouring flame fan in his hand quickly slashed out a wind blade. The wind blade was so sharp that it directly cut off the 2 arms. The 2 meaty arms fell to the ground, rolled a few times, and fell downstairs. The meatball's gaze became more and more ruthless. It exerted force, and 2 new arms grew out of its severed flesh arms. The 2 new arms were obviously more disgusting than the previous arms. The stench also became extremely strong. Yiqing Luo's body bent down and rolled a few rounds down the stairs. Then, he slammed the ground and leaped up. After retreating a few steps, Yiqing Luo closed her glower flame fan and stood firm. What are you? His eyes were filled with hatred as he stared at her. It wanted to tear apart this human who injured it. It wanted to swallow this human into its body in the most painful way possible. Due to its anger, the surface of the plump meatball was constantly bubbling. Immediately after, the meatball launched another attack. The meatball once again collapsed into a pile of meat paste. It directly spread towards Yi Qing Luo's legs. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes, carefully sizing up its weakness as she swiftly retreated. Just as that pile of meat paste was about to reach her legs, Yi Qing Luo's glower flame fan opened, and the condensed profound qi directly exploded that pile of meat paste.